Greetings and salutations, fellow humans. Thought I'd start today with one of my songs. Feeling kind of chill today. Had a pretty relaxing day today. Went grocery shopping. Cleaned my apartment up a little bit. Tomorrow's going to be a big day for that. Just changing things around, you know? Some spring cleaning, right? Got asked a question by my niece who's 5 years old. What's the world gonna be like when I'm grown? I looked up at the crimson smoke-filled sky. I thought, what's the harm in telling one more lie? I said, everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to Eden. Antarctica is covered in everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? The burning sun won't leave a paper trail. Why work so hard if it's too big to fail? And what's the point in feeding this machine if it won't make the world in our dreams where everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets? You never need to worry if you're gonna get to Eden. Antarctica is covered in ice, and everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice? And I know one day my maker I will meet, when death's sweet kiss comes to sweep me off my feet. I hope by then we learned a little more. I'd like this place to be better than before, so everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to Eden. Antarctica is covered in ice, and everybody's happy, and wouldn't that be nice when everybody's safe, no one's living in the streets? You never need to worry if you're gonna get to Eden. Antarctica is covered in Antarctica is covered in ice. I think about, all of this turmoil and all of this difficulty and all of this strife that we're going through. And really, we should all just go outside and sit underneath a tree. You know? If we all just decided nuts to all of this, and just went and sat under a tree and said to the world, no more of this. No more of this dumb, idiotic nonsense, this rushing around achieving negative energy. We're not even achieving nothing. That's why I say, go out and do nothing. Because at least doing nothing doesn't hurt anybody. It just offends some sort of abstract concept of ambition that the fascists have. We would be better off as a people. Yeah, smoke them if you got them. That's exactly it, Compton. Major, Barnabas, Eric, Seraphim, good to see each and every one of you. Good to see each and every one of you. My goodness, what a blessing. I'm in a very zen sort of space today, honestly, guys. Yeah, but that means you are lazy. Okay. Sorry, a fascist calling me lazy, I'm just like, nah, okay. Whatever you say, Jim. Like, you think that there is such a thing as a subhuman. So, I don't care. I'm very much over it. Like, we're a society that's destroying itself, and I don't respect the laws of this society. I don't see why we should respect the opinions of people who are voting to maintain it. Like, there's no... You don't need to... Like, the people who are defending this, like, have lost their minds. Like, really. Like, really and fully and truly. Like, and we're taking seriously, like, just yesterday, I was looking around for a good podcast, something a little bit lengthy. I was finding, like, little clips of things, and I wanted something more substantial, and so I thought to myself, oh, why don't I give Joe Rogan another shot, you know? So I throw on Joe Rogan's podcast, finding somebody who I really respect, which is Duncan Trussell. Joe Rogan has a good talk with Duncan Trussell, right? And it became really obvious really quick that, like, Rogan's detached. Like, he's detached from reality now. That this deal he made with Spotify, it was starting to happen before then, but it's happened now, for sure. Like, the guy is like an Elon Musk simp. He genuinely believes... Duncan Trussell is, first of all, he's a good friend of Joe Rogan, so he's been on the podcast a lot. Like, really early days. But Duncan Trussell is a comedian and an artist in his own right. I'd say one of his big masterpieces was, and I think it's available on Netflix. I highly advise everybody see it, which is The Midnight Gospel. And The Midnight Gospel was a series of podcasts that Duncan did with Christian folk, psychologists, different types of people, but most notably, in my view, was the conversation that he had with his mother about her death. And he partners up with Pendleton Ward, who of Adventure Time fame. I don't know if you guys know Adventure Time. Again, if you don't know Adventure Time, I strongly and highly advise going through Adventure Time. Adventure Time has this really phenomenal quality about it. Of when it begins, it's very childish. It's exactly the sentimentality of like a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old, or maybe even younger. But year by year, it really grows up, and really attains something that you don't see very often in media, which is mature conversations about the nature of spirituality and the nature of existence, all framed within this very coming-of-age story, which is the following of Finn. So Adventure Time, Pendleton Ward partners up with Duncan Trussell to do The Midnight Gospel, which really, truthfully, is a very, like, The conversation Duncan has with his own mother about her death is one of the most profound things I have ever seen on any media platform, right? Because what they're doing is they're taking these conversations and then they're animating them in a Pendleton Ward animation style, which is all full of the kind of classic odd spiritual connections and creatures and odd things going on throughout. And it really results in something very, very profound. And so that alone makes me, like, I love Duncan Trussell, right? I think I like he's if there is such a thing as a good man, he is among them. But the conversation that he ends up having with Joe Rogan really, like, reveals to me that, like, wealth will change you. It will change you. And you can't make it not change you. Right? Like, when I started paying attention to Joe Rogan, I was like, yeah, sure, Rogan's, like, you know, a dope. And he always has been, right? But at least he understands the position of the working class. At least he understands the concept of creating some kind of collective good or something like this. But all of that's been distilled out of him. Yeah, corruption. That's what it is. It's that old biblical sort of speaking, right? It's that old biblical way of talking where you can only serve, a man cannot serve two masters. You know? You can choose money, or Moloch, as the book says, or you can choose God, or the environment, if you want to secularize the language, right? But you've got to pick one. And if you don't pick one on purpose, and actively pursue it, and actively work to improve one over the other, then the system will choose for you. And we all know which way the capitalist system is going to push you. We all know. Matthias, good to see you. President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are going into business with Audible, the Amazon-owned audio storytelling platform. Okay. They have to end up somewhere, right? They got to end up somewhere. So that means that they're going to start pushing, like, Obama books. The World According to Obama, right? Michelle's Miracles. And they'll have, like, Michelle's Choice, right? They'll have, like, a little stamp. It'll be the Barack's Best, huh? Right? And that'll be, like, a good way to sell books and sell, like, propagandistic sort of pro-positivity, individualist spirituality, new age nonsense to wine mums and Oprah followers, basically, who want to believe that the real problem with reality is that the people who are making their food for them while they stay at home, benefiting from the fact that their husband is a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and they basically just don't do anything. They're just a trophy wife, more or less. But they got to maintain this idea that the reason why their serfs and their servants and their slaves are so miserable is because they're not working hard enough and they're not grateful for the opportunity that the capitalist system has given them, right? Like that's what that's all about. And from, like, Obama's position, it's just like, no more money for me, you know? I could definitely go into business with Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, an American entrepreneur, right? Obama thought, yeah. Yeah, all they had to do was give Bezos a little peck on the cheek. Well, look, this is one of these situations that's, it's a benefit for everybody. It benefits all the parties involved, right? It benefits Obama, the Obamas, because it keeps them prominent. It gives them a platform by which to continue remaining somehow socially relevant, even though they're really not. It benefits Jeff Bezos because he's going to sell a bunch of shit with these guys, right? He gets to do what capitalists do, which is just do nothing and exploit the work that these people put in. social democracy is the left wing of fascism, just saying, yeah, I mean, the suck dem crowd, yeah. The office of the president is just a corporate billboard. Yeah, more or less. More or less. I mean, in positive news, guys, 750 signal and communication workers in Canada strike CN Rail for pay hikes and improved conditions. Go on strike. Organize your workplaces. Tell these people to get fucked. Clara Olafson. How you doing, Clara? Good to see you. Good to see you. I love seeing people who I don't see that often float through. Makes me feel good about myself, you know? Like, but bless the regulars. Bless you guys for all being here, each and every one of you. I do appreciate it. It's like the story of the prodigal son, though, you know? Where, like, at the end of the story, if you guys don't know the story is about how one of the sons asks his father for his inheritance, and he goes wandering, and then it all fucks up, and he comes home. And then the elder son, who had stayed there, goes, "Why are we throwing a party for this guy?" Like, he says, "I've been here the whole time." And then his dad is like, "Come on." And that's basically the whole story. Anyway, a good story poorly told just there. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for tuning in. You think it'll get so bad they'll just move from an electoral system to auctioneer? I love it, Matthias. That's a great idea for like a skit of some kind, where like it literally is like, oh, time for another election, and they just have an audition, right? Seraphim hitting it on the head. Good time to remind people, like, share, subscribe. If you would like to donate to the Patreon, please do so. Every dollar helps. If you're only donating $1, maybe make it $2, right? If tell your friends, tell your family. If you've got a friend or a family member in your life that's going, I keep looking around for podcasts and I want something a little bit more, maybe recommend me, right? We'll make it happen. It's hard for me to watch live because it's the middle of the night for me. I try to watch the next day. Well, that's sweet of you, Clara. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. You guys are the true engine of all of this. Yep, give John your pennies. Exactly. Alms for the poor. Alms for the poor. I should have a little cup. Is what I should have. I should have a little cup and be like, ding, 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 ding. Milo, you've had peanut butter, my friend. You've had peanut butter. We went through this conversation. You've had peanut butter. I was talking to my uncle, and he opposes workers' strikes. He talked about how he worked at Bell. There was a union that went on strike and prevented him to do his work. Sounds like a simp. Just sounds like a simp for capital. I can't wait to be dominated by an oligarchy. The oligarchs inherited their wealth fair and square. I can't wait to be dominated by them. Like, this is what these guys sound like to me. Anytime they talk, I'm just like, oh, you guys are literally, like, it is just to the point now where it's kind of like a kink, more or less. Like, I don't actually think that it's about their own, like, well-being or the benefit of society or anything for these guys. I think it's literally just, like, a daddy-dom kind of situation for a lot of these guys, where it's just like... And actually, someone really explained something to me just the other day that I really found to be quite interesting, which was pointing out that fascism doesn't care about morality. It's not about morality. It's not about ethics, right? That if you are a fascist watching a liberal or a communist become aghast at your position on a moral basis is at worst irrelevant to you and at best amusing, because fascists don't care about morality or ethics of any sort, right? That they don't. To them, it's not about some kind of prevailing idea of egalitarianism. It's not about alleviating suffering. It's not about creating an inclusive or equal society of any sort. That fascists exclusively care about power. That they are operating from a position of power exclusively. And I think it's past time that we start communicating with conservatives and fascists in their language. which is to just accept that the reason why they worship Elon Musk is exclusively because he's powerful. Much like this, right? Like, he's opposed to workers, right? Because at the end of the day, he's subserviating himself to power exclusively, right? They're literally simps for power. And there's no point having a discussion with these guys about morality or ethics or any of that, because they don't have that. They're not capable of having that. If they had that, they wouldn't be fascists, right? That any person with any kind of moral or ethical backing of any sort would obviously say, yeah, we should help people the most that we can. It's not where fascists operate from. And I think that they are able to skirt by the way that they do, and get people to kind of come on their side, because they can speak a language, they can obfuscate their own belief system and pretend as though what they're trying to do is help the society, when in reality they're only trying to subserviate themselves to power exclusively. And I think that we should talk to them that way. Like, they care about power. That's it. Like, why do they care about Elon Musk at all? It's like watching Star Wars, seeing Darth Vader come in and go, there's finally the good guy. Right? And like the whole time rooting for Darth Vader to be the king shit of the thing, right? And like, just watch what's going to happen. Just watch what's going to happen to what Disney is going to do to Star Wars. I'm dead certain of this, that as the franchise lurches forward, as they continue to try to squeeze as much blood from the Star Wars franchise that they can get, the Empire will become the good guys. Watch it happen. That one day Disney will release a Star Wars movie and the Empire will be the good guys, and you're supposed to be rooting for them. That's the trajectory that I see. Right? You can see this in the defanging of figures like Luke Skywalker. You can see this in the kind of inert pointlessness of the Rebel Alliance. That the rebellion ultimately is a failure. That the Empire will always rise again, right? And especially as like Donald Trump takes over and his ilk, Disney will be like, well, we need to sell something to these guys. What do these guys want to watch? Oh, they want to watch a powerful person, a powerful man, dominate others. Okay. Star Wars is full of that shit. But just instead of showing him as a villain to be fought against, he'll be presented as the hero of the piece. Finally, a strong man bringing peace to the galaxy. That kind of shit. Watch it happen. Watch it happen. Obama's documentary about national parks was a real disappointment. I was hoping for parks in North America, since I'll probably never have the money to travel overseas. I mean, any documentary that comes out from these people is always going to be like Obama is such an interesting figure now, because like, I don't think he knows what to do with his time. You know? Like, he was such a letdown as a president. He disillusioned an entire generation of people. I think the greatest accomplishment the Obama administration actually achieved was at the end of his term, he actually released an economic assessment of America that was actually quite accurate, and also basically distilled Marxian principles and ideas into a new form of language that made it more difficult for people to accuse him of being a communist, for pointing out the reality of the American economic system. And of course, this document was widely ignored, not really reported on. And of course, like, the Trump administration doesn't give a fuck about it at all. So he ends up being like one of the most lame duck presidents maybe in the history of the nation. And so now he's just sort of blithely and listlessly going throughout life, trying to, you know, he pops up every so often at political rallies, or he pops up here, does a speech here, right? But I really just imagine like a guy, kind of like Bush, right? Like Bush Jr., like apparently he takes to painting, right? Like I just imagine like a withdrawn, like I did my time, leave me alone kind of figure who doesn't really who's not really relevant anymore and doesn't really matter to anyone in any. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? My glasses just broke, you guys. Holy shit, for real. Oh, are you serious about this? Aw, man. My glasses just snapped in half. Like, for real. Like, for real. My glasses just snapped in half. Aw, man. That is a significant bummer. That is a significant bummer, you guys. Holy cow. I don't even know what to do about it. Like, I don't. I have no idea what to do about this. Like, no. Oh, no. Super glue. Yeah, feels bad. Hey, JR, how you doing, bud? Oh, yeah. Oh, man. The super glue solution's probably the solution, but, I mean, I need these to see, you guys. Like, I need these to see. And I don't actually have, like, another... Although, I might have another pair. Like, a previous prescription. I gotta resolve this, guys. I literally can't continue the stream if I don't have my eyes, right? Well, isn't this just a bag of butts? Isn't this just a bag of butts? Because I don't even have any, like, tape or anything. Like, and I don't want to rummage around. I still want to do the stream, you know? Well, isn't this just a bag of butts? No, the frames are expensive frames, but they're old, I guess. I just didn't expect them to snap right where they did, you know? It snapped, like, right in the dead center. Like, right in the dead center. I don't know if you guys can see that. But almost in the dead center. Usually when they break off over here. Right? I guess that means when I've been cleaning it, I've been doing a lot of that. You know? Just sort of passively or unconsciously. Well, isn't that just an enormous bag of butts? Here we go. Isn't this just the thing, isn't it, Milo? I can't believe it. And here they go. Well, I guess I just recover from this indignity and continue on the stream. Well, here we go. And I mean, the value is in the lenses, you bet. I'm pretty sure I have some super glue around. The super glue solution is the solution. Because I can just, like, boop, connect it together. Salvage it. Oh my god. What a hilarious thing to happen on stream. Oh well. I guess we all got to be in this journey together, right? That's what I get for bad-mouthing the Obamas, right? The universe just said to me, Jonathan, you need to stop speaking ill of President Obama. He was a good man who tried his best with the circumstances that he had. Just squint. You need a welder woman to help you with your glasses. Yeah. What would a boomer do? Yeah. Eye care is a human right, excluding Canada. Yeah, you got it. You got it. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Okay, guys, give me 1 second. I'm trying to remember. I feel like I can fix this. I can fix it. Can I fix it on stream? Let's take a look. You know how sometimes you have a memory of something? You remember that you have something, but you don't remember where it is? Well, that's perpetually my life. And I feel as though, unless I open this up and I see it before me. I know, guys, this is the content that you're really signing up for, right? You're thinking to yourself, oh boy, am I ever glad that I tuned in? Am I ever glad that I tuned into the stream today? Oh, Milo. Oh, looks like Milo wants to do the stream today. How you doing, Milo? Oh. Well, guys, I don't think I'll be reading a lot today. Oh. What would MacGyver do? He would just get some tape or something. I just don't even have any tape. Like, I got nothing. I've got no adherence. I've got nothing. Yeah, Red Green says duct tape fixes everything. Yeah, it's absolutely the truth. If your women don't find you handsome, they can at least find you handy, right? Good old Red Green. Open narrator. Yeah, it's weird because this one is staying put. You see? Like, this one's perfectly fine, but this one doesn't want to cooperate at all. This one's not cooperating even a little. Oh well. Well, we all do as we can. Here, let's move on from the glasses fiasco. What do you guys say? Let's move on from the glasses fiasco. I am dedicated to delivering you the news of the day. Just wear one and an eye patch. Hello, hey Lonnie. Thanks for your advice as always, Lonnie. I appreciate it. I know exactly what I'm going to do at the end of the stream. I'm just going to walk down to the corner store. I'm dead positive that they're going to have some super glue. And I'm just going to buy that super glue and just like boink and wait the 5 minutes or however long, and then we'll be back in business. And then every time I clean my glasses, I'll have to be nice and easy. Right? Nice and easy. Because the truth is, guys, I don't have the money to replace my glasses right now. Right? We are witnessing in real time. Right? Like, I, like many other people who live in Canada, live paycheck to paycheck. Right? Some days I make it and sometimes I don't. Right? And an expense like this, I cannot afford to replace these. Just straightforwardly. I literally do not have the money. I mean, that's not true. I probably do have the money. I could do it, but then I might not have rent. Right? This is always something you take for granted, right? You take for granted of things like things like glasses and things like this when you got them. And then something like this happens. I can't remember the last time my glasses just snapped, though. I can't remember. What do you remember? Do you remember, Milo? Hey, come on. I guess these things are probably like 10 years old, though. So, signs of things to come, right? Soon it'll be my arm. Fact, duct tape is good for everything except duct work. That's funny. Yeah, just get 34 more jobs. Exactly. Just don't move your head, John. Oh, perfect. Perfect. That's right. Just get another job. I already have 3 jobs. Just get another job. Get a better job. Job. Just job your job and then job your job. And then when you job your job, you'll job your job. Right? Go get the jobs from the jobby job. And everything will be jobby. When your jobs. Right? Right? Maybe I'll just hold my finger like this. So here's a fun one. Leaked Hillary Clinton emails revealed NATO killed Gaddafi to stop the formation of a United States of Africa. Isn't that great? Isn't that absolutely great? Here's Gaddafi running the most powerful economy, socialist economy, in Libya, proving all the socialists correct, as always, right? That if you actually plan an economy and actually think about, like, hey, maybe we should take care of our own citizens. Maybe, instead of committing austerity against the poorest people in the country, maybe we should help those people, and they'll be able to contribute to a wider economy, and by continuously promoting a stable society based on principles of egalitarianism, we will actually build a more robust, stable society. And then so the Americans were like, we can't have that. A robust, stable society in Libya, in Africa, we can't tolerate that. So, we know what the Americans did, right? Say it with me, everyone. Fund a far-right internal organization to wage a proxy war. When have we ever seen America do this? Oh, every single time forever? Fantastic. And Libya goes from having the strongest economy on the continent to literally having open slave trade markets in the space of a year. Thanks, Hillary. Thanks, Hillary. You want the link? You want the link? Have the link. Here's your link. Clickety-clack. All right. I'm struggling away with this one. Of the 3,000 emails released from Hillary Clinton's private email server in late December 2015, about a third were from her close confidant, Sidney Blumenthal. One of these emails, dated April 2nd, 2011, read in part, Gaddafi's government holds 143 tons of gold, and a similar amount in silver. This gold was accumulated prior to the current rebellion and was intended to be used to establish a pan-African currency, based on the Libyan golden dinar. This plan was designed to provide the Francophone African countries as an alternative to the French franc. In a source comment, the original declassified email added, according to knowledgeable individuals, this quantity of gold and silver is valued at more than 7 billion. French intelligence officers discovered this plan shortly after the current rebellion began, and this was one of the factors that influenced President Nicolas Sarkozy's decision to commit France to the attack on Libya. According to these individuals, Sarkozy's plans are driven by the following issues. Number 1, a desire to gain a greater share of Libya's oil production. And number 2, increase French influence in North Africa. Number 3, improve his internal political situation in France. Number 4, provide the French military with an opportunity to reassert its position in the world. And number 5, address the concern of his advisors over Gaddafi's long-term plans to support France as the dominant power in the Francophone Africa. Conspicuously absent is any mention of humanitarian concerns. The Empire doesn't care about that. The objectives were to get rid of the unification of Africa, money, power, and oil. Gaddafi and Obama were best friends, but since Obama was now on the West side, making matters worse as the president of the USA, the West broke their friendship. This is what Gaddafi said about Obama, his friend wanting him dead. The mainstream media will never tell you this. The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and make the guilty innocent, and that is power, because they control the mind of the masses. I help brands, individuals get quality online presence and promote ads for my brand. Yeah, send a DM. Yeah, DM is always open for business. Always got a capitalism, right? Always got a capitalism. Like, yeah. When you have a place like Haiti that wants to raise their minimum wage and then Hillary coups that place, yeah. Non-whites on their way to establishing solidarity. We can't have that. I know, right? What will happen if the non-whites start to say that they're just as good as the whites? Life will be terrible. Green Book of Communism is based. I don't think I've heard of this. Grinning. Let's take a look. Okay. The Green Book of Communism. Oh my god. Oh, very nice. Oh yes, I have heard of this. The Green Book. The political philosophy of the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. I've never read it though. I definitely should. Like, the more research I do on Gaddafi, the more I see, like, he really was a guy who was trying his best for his own people. and trying to build a better society and a better African society, right? And you can't have that. Can't have that shit happening, right? Better African society. Look at this. According to British author, Libyan children spent 2 hours a week studying the book as part of their curriculum. Extracts were broadcast every day on television. Its slogans were found on billboards painted on buildings. That's some good old-fashioned propaganda work right there. On a state visit to Libya, socialist Bolivian President Evo Morales cited the Green Book as a major influence on his political beliefs and policies. That's not nothing. That's not nothing. Ah, it's fine, DM, you sweetheart. I'm okay. I'm okay. You're just gonna watch me struggle. Is all you're gonna do. Today's a struggle day. That's all. Right? That's all. That's okay. We're all in this together. Right? We're all in this together. We're all struggling together. I know, Milo. We're all struggling together because you're struggling to get more peanut butter in your life. Isn't that right? Isn't that right, little guy? Yes, Barnabas. No, you must stream. Honestly, hold on. Why did I close that? Great. Milo. And like, there it is actually. Hold on. My God, what a chaotic stream I'm having. I came into this stream feeling all like loose and easy, and now I'm all like, ah. Oh, it's turning into a comedy show, dude. It's turning into a comedy show. The solution of the problem of democracy, the authority of the people. Dude, this is pretty cool, man. Like, I didn't even know about this book. How did I not know about this book? I mean, I know how I didn't know about this book. It's not like it's promoted, right? Comrade Milo can take over for an hour. Yeah, exactly. Busy day cleaning OR rooms. Oh, yes. That would be a busy day. The crusty like... Here's a little Woody Woodpecker for you guys. This is going to be a weird one now, guys. This is going to be a weird one. This recent heat wave has the Gulf-like bathwater. Look at Lake Pontchartrain. 95 degrees. So, here's New Orleans, right? New Orleans, 95 degrees. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? What temperature does water boil at Fahrenheit? All right, a lot more. A lot more. Just curious. Just curious. Okay, we're going to put this back here. We're going to put this back here. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I've been hearing stories coming out of the south. Yeah, at least everyone has a hot tub now. Yeah, just need to find, like, a jet stream. Where's the jet stream at, right? Breaking news, CTV News just posted an article today about basic income. Basic income would ease poverty but require higher taxes, spending cuts, study, yeah. Like, they're gonna report on this stuff over and over and over and over and over again. As long as the populace is fine with the reporting of it, right? And as long as the populace is fine with just like, oh, they're reporting on it. They're talking about it. Look at what they're talking about. And as long as the populace is inert and doesn't give a shit and doesn't care and doesn't take to the streets, doesn't protest, doesn't demand anything, you know, they'll be fine with that, right? That's where we're at. Right? The majority of people are walking around being like, well, I trust my media. I trust that when my media talks, they're actually trying to improve the quality of life for people, and they're actually trying to change the opinion of the political thing. When in reality, it's just more of this, like, you know, keep the conversation alive so that people will believe that there's actually something happening when there isn't. Very, very straightforward, right? Very, very simple. That's how the liberals roll. That's what they do. right? You get article after article after article about the benefits of pharmacare, article after article of article about the benefits of dental care, article after article after article about the benefits of, like, hey, maybe we should take climate change seriously, right? And it's all being done so the populace will go like, oh, well, look, there must be something going on. Yeah, there's got to be something going on. I'm reading about it in the news. There's got to be something. So, off to work, right? Off to work. Just show up to work on time. That's all that matters. Like, that's become my opinion about all of these basic income articles and all this kind of stuff. It's just a way to keep the populace going, oh, I got that bomb. Right? Polyev promises to protect freedom of speech on campus. Appoint a free speech guardian. Yeah, that doesn't sound fascist at all, right? That's a totally normal thing for a normal person to say normally, right? The guardian would be responsible for, like, how is this anything but the Ministry of Truth? Like, come on. Like, straight up. How is this anything but the Ministry of Truth? He's threatening to remove direct federal research and other grants from Canadian universities if they do not commit to protect academic freedom and free speech from campus gatekeepers. So, like, wait a minute. There's already, like, who are these campus gatekeepers, first of all? Right? Oh, someone did something. Well, thank you, Rob. I appreciate that, bud. I appreciate that. What is the Ministry of Truth? Come on, the Ministry of Truth from 1984. The only book that conservatives actually cite. Right? This is like 1984. This is 1984. If he forms government, Polyev promises to appoint a former judge, which will act as a free speech guardian, who will ensure that universities respect the principles enshrined in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, in particular Section 2B, which protects freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression. The former judge will be responsible for ensuring compliance by universities to the principles of academic freedom and free speech, but will also investigate claims of academic censorship. Like, where is this where is this censorship exactly? Like, I can tell you about the censorship that I've been experiencing, right? I can tell you about the YouTube-based censorship that I've been experiencing. Like, what? But, like, for real, where is it? Like, we all literally watched Jordan Peterson stand up and throw a hissy fit about having to call trans people by their proper pronouns and lie in front of all of us about the nature of the law, right? So here's a University of Toronto professor that is allowed to stand up in front of everybody and just lie, like openly lie about the nature of the subject, and be platformed and taken seriously. And again, it's the same fucking story, right? These guys, like, they prayed all over the media, complaining that they're being censored, right? Oh yeah, of course, Polyev is also bad on Russia, right? But, well, the whole system is, though, so I don't really hold that against him personally. You know, even the NDP are bad on Russia. Who will gatekeep the gatekeepers? Exactly. And if we don't gatekeep these gatekeepers, then we'll never get these gates kept. Right? And honestly, like, yes, hate speech will continue to be prohibited, as the courts have ruled that it can be banned under the Charter. Yeah. The Charter protects free speech, not hate speech. So, does my academic freedom and free speech policy. But, like, it's much ado about nothing if you have, like, it's either much ado about nothing or it's literally putting umbrage in, right? Like, there's no situation where, like, oh my god. Yep, more gatekeepers. That'll be the solution. The CTV news article hasn't even posted to Reddit yet. Hey man, DM's on it. You real pro. Good to see you, Oddity. I'm having an oddity one today, man. I'm having an odd one. I might just start playing a bunch of music because I'm really struggling with these glasses, dude. Yeah, here's a good one. Hey, we're hosting 10 World Cup games and spending $600 million to do it. Right? Like, why? Good question. Like, why? Here's an interesting one, by the way. And I do love to point this out, right? So this is from the Globe and Mail. This is the editorial board, right? Literally any time you see this in a Globe and Mail article, it's coming from David Thompson. Like, that's the way to look at this. And once you understand this, these kinds of articles become a lot more interesting. David Thompson is very clever in that he doesn't promote himself. He doesn't want people to know about him. But he still wants his ideas to get out, and he still wants certain things to be spoken about in the public sector, obviously. I think anybody would. But he's very clever, and he does it very cleverly, where there'll be an opinion article, comes out in the Globe and Mail, his newspaper, that'll say the editorial board. And you gotta believe that this is essentially an article written by him, right? Like, David Thompson sits down, writes an article, right? Or has someone write an article based on this idea. Like, it's easy to believe that David Thompson would be like, wait, we're spending $600 million to host 10 World Cup games? Why? And it's a good question. Like, it's a good question. Toronto can allegedly afford to spend roughly $100 million to host 5 World Cup soccer games. No problem, no objections, right? We literally can't house 16,000 homeless people. Do you think $100 million would help house 16,000 homeless people? I think it probably would, right? But wah wah wah. And this idea that this is going to like generate, Toronto estimates it will get $307 million in GDP impact from the World Cup, right? That means the city is hoping for $307 million of extra economic activity. But all that means, we all know where that goes. Economic activity goes to the oligarchy. Taxpayers should not expect to break even. So water fountains and pools, or a one-off 5-game soccer circus. Investment in public facilities like parks and community centers and hockey rinks, or in a pro sports stadium, right? And not even asking the question. Don't even say, hey, what about the homeless people? What about housing the homeless? The furthest that they're willing to go is investment in public facilities like parks and community centers and hockey rinks. That's the farthest they're willing to go. Forget about housing the homeless. Yep, goes to private contractors, exactly. John, if you ever get a printing department, sign me up. All right. Do not question the elites. Yeah, after all, they can be outright racist because the people are so sensitive now. People are so sensitive these days. They really hate it when I zig Heil and march down the hallways and talk about rounding up the Jews. People are so sensitive. Switzerland imports Russian gold for the first time since the war. More than 3 tons of gold was shipped to refining hub in May. Yeah, Russian gold became taboo following invasion of Ukraine. This is important news because any sign that relations with Russia are going to normalize, I think is important. I think it is important that Switzerland is finally going okay, we'll get back to trade, right? Always remember, trade is peace, right? And if Switzerland is going to start importing gold again and start trade relations up again, right? I think it's a good sign for things in that region. Although, this might be a really good opportunity to pop this one in. Straight up, pro-Russian propaganda. No other way to say it. But I still think it's useful to see. Here's a regular update from the front line.
A strike with Russian-caliber cruise missiles destroyed a command center belonging to Kiev's forces, killing over 50 Ukrainian officers, generals, and members of the High Command, the Russian Ministry of Defense reported on June 19th. The pinpoint strike took place near the village of Shirokaya Dacha, in the region of Dnipropetrovsk. Russia said that the missiles hit the command center where commanders of several units of Kiev's forces had gathered for a meeting. The Russian military added that the caliber cruise missiles were also used to destroy 10 M777 howitzers and at least 20 armored vehicles which were delivered recently from the west. The heavy weapons were stored inside a factory building in a transformer plant in Mykolaiv city. The Russian campaign of missile strikes remains focused on military infrastructure targets belonging to Ukraine. In its own turn, Kiev's forces, in the best traditions of democracy, responded by increasing the shelling of residential areas of the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics and villages in the Russian border regions like Bryansk. The only option to put an end to these terrorist actions is the full elimination of military capabilities of Kiev's units deployed in these sectors, as well as the elimination of the Ukrainian armed forces in their modern terrorist group-like format. However, the slowing down of the Russian advance in the region of the Donbass in recent weeks indicates that the achievement of this goal is not likely in the near future. As of June 20th, Russian forces have been finishing the elimination of Kiev's garrison in the industrial zone of Sovyanetsk and the liberation of Zolotoye. The grouping of Kiev's troops that remain in the Azot plant in Severodonetsk is de facto cut off from its allied forces and is balancing on the verge of collapse. The situation for them became even worse with the liberation of Michokhina by the Russians. Around Zolotoye, the Russian formations are now clashing with pro-Kiev units in Kamyshovaha. In a separate development, Russian forces have been working to expand their foothold north of Slavyansk. The Russian military has not been able to fully encircle and neutralize the grouping of Kiev's forces in the Donbass so far. At the same time, the Russians managed to liberate a number of important territories and towns, as well as deliver a powerful blow to the most capable and well-armed military formations belonging to Kiev. At the same time, Kiev and its NATO backers managed to keep positions in the areas of Donetsk and Gorlovka and slow down the defeat of the main forces of its Donetsk group. Thus, they gained additional time to mobilize more cannon fodder that will be thrown to the east to stop the Russian military machine.
Was there echo on this one? I mean, Ukraine's like in for a penny, in for a pound, right? Oh, Eric. Trade isn't peace. David Graeber demonstrated that trade was developed with the enemies of foreign tribes, and people within a tribe never traded with each other. Ooh. Sorry about the echo, guys. What a struggle stream we're having. You know what? Straight up. Straight up. Oh, Andrea Horvath. She's going to run as mayor for Hamilton. I actually like this. This is a good fit for her. Like, really. I think that the thing about Andrea Horvath is that she's got support. She's popular in pockets. And she does well in urban centers. So, I think her moving to a city and becoming the mayor of a city is probably a good place to be for her. And a good place for the NDP, right? Because, like, the NDP are in such a bad spot now, right? They can't even beat Doug Ford. Like, that's pretty bad, you know? Like, that's pretty bad. And it's looking more and more that this next term for Doug Ford is going to be pretty dumb. Like, pretty dumb, guys, right? Like, it's going to be a pretty dumb time. His highway, right? I've been looking into his highway, Highway 413. And the big reason why no one has ever moved on this highway is that it goes through a lot of conservation land. And it's a lot of federal conservation land, right? So you've got a ton of federally operated or federally owned land that the feds have said, no, this is conservation, we're not going to let you. It's the green belt, for God's sakes, right? It's filled with agricultural land, it's filled with all kinds of stuff. And so for Doug Ford to actually try to move through, is the auto echoing even when I'm talking, guys, or is it just the video? Is it echoing when I'm talking, or is it echoing just in the video? That's what I really want to know. Because I don't see anything that's causing a loop. And when I talk, it's just going. Like, is it echoing now? It was only in the video, just the video. Okay. So what that was is probably coming out, because this is a new setup, I've got everything new, right? And what it probably was is probably audio was coming through the system itself, but it was also probably coming through the mic. So I'll have to do something to alleviate that. Want. What a day I'm having, guys. What a day I'm having. My glasses snapped in half on stream. The audio setup is no good. Oh my god. They pay me with don't get me very far. The chains that hold me break me down, but they don't scar. Can't even drink away my blues inside a bar. And this year sucks. This year sucks. Can you blame a man for trying to give it up, and this year sucks. Another day won't help that pain inside your back. The days get harder, but it's too hard to keep track. You keep me tired before my soul opens just a crack. And God don't care what monkeys think about the facts. And this year sucks. This year sucks. Can you blame a man for trying to give it up? And this year sucks. Sit atop your pile of bones and bloody gold, and human sacrifice don't stop you being old. At least you'll die before the bomb you said explodes. We're gonna burn to death while doing what we're told, and this year sucks. This year sucks. Can you blame a man for trying to give it up? And this year sucks. It burns down anyway. It burns down anyway. It burns down anyway. It burns down anyway. Man, I dig that tune. I dig that tune. That's a good tune, man. That's like the heart of rebellion right there. That's just like a battle cry from the ground, right? Like it's the earth itself crying out, this is really fucking stupid. This is really fucking stupid what we're doing, man. That's the thing that stuns me about it. It's just like it's beyond dumb. It's like it's literally walking out to your own field and just tilling salt into it and being like, this is normal for profit. Yeah. YouTube censoring me, recommending you get glasses fixed by expert at glasses store before I try to fix yourself. Oh, yeah. Just don't want to, you know? I just don't want to. But you're right. There's like a glasses place just down the way. I bet if I walked in there and was just like, hey, you guys have to have some kind of thing to like fix this up, right? One would think, right? They do like glass cutting in there, and they do all that kind of stuff, right? I just like, I want to be able to use my glasses tonight, you know? Even if all it is just some tape. I just don't even have any tape. Can you believe it? I don't even have any tape. Oh my god. What a silly stream this has turned into. What a silly stream this has turned into. Canada is hooked on real estate. It needs a detox, right? Like, our entire economy is just based on, like, trading houses with one another, right? Like, it's as dumb as it gets. Like, we're literally just like, here, you have a house. No, you have a house. Oh, I changed the faucets in this house, and that means I could charge an extra $100,000. So now you get this house, and then here's your house, and okay, you get a house, and we're all just like swapping houses, and that's basically our economy. And it's just like the dumbest thing ever. Like, remember when we used to make stuff, or like provide services of some sort, or do anything of value whatsoever? Do things that people would actually be like, oh, hey, Canada, they're actually contributing somehow to the growth of humanity and the growth of the society. Nope. That can just get fucked right out the door. Like, get completely fucked. It doesn't exist. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit at all. That's... And we all just keep going to work. We all just keep going to work. Instead of telling all of these guys to just get completely fucked. Which is exactly what we should be doing. Yep. Never build anything to last. There's no profit in it. Exactly. Because the whole system is based on the idea that you just need to find a bigger sucker. Right? Like, when you look at the crypto market is exactly indicative of the system of capital. Right? That instead of creating something real and tangible in order to provide a service or a good to the most amount of people for the cheapest possible amount, right, to increase the quality of their life, the capitalists just went ahead and created this fake who gives a fuck nonsense that's based entirely on just find a bigger rube than you. And the whole system of capital now has gotten to a point where they're just find a bigger rube than you. Constantly just finding a bigger rube than you. And it's ruining every aspect of our lives. Every aspect of our lives. Like, there's a game franchise. Let's make it as, like, small as possible, right? In terms of, like, actual impact. But it's amazing how desperate capitalism is to destroy every aspect of society. There's this game franchise that I follow called Diablo, right? I've been following it since I was a kid. The original Diablo was like absolutely crazy, amazing stuff, right? Hits you right in your like D&D brain. Well, as the game evolved through time, you had another, like a sequel, and Diablo was like a true labor of love done by somebody who loved games. And then Diablo 2 was made, and it was the same thing. It was the same crew, and they were like, we can do more, we can do bigger, we can do better, let's go, let's make a solid game. And then Diablo 3 was literally just a bunch of asshole capitalists being like, we could shit another one of these out, and so they made some schlocky bullshit. And now they've released something on mobile devices called Diablo Immortal, which literally is a gambling casino system where you can't level up your character effectively at all and even get access to basic content without microtransactions, without constantly feeding this gambling machine. So they're trying to turn this beloved game franchise that I grew up with into a casino slot machine for your phone, essentially. And the only incentive for this is to just get people addicted to your system to harvest as much money as you possibly can from them. And somebody actually did the math on it, and they were like, okay, how much time would you have to spend to actually grind up to get to the top level? And it's something absurd like 10,000 hours. And then they're like, okay, so How much money would you have to spend to get to that point? And it's, again, something absolutely absurd, like $1,500, right? So the whole shtick is to just have you constantly drip out like $1 at a time, right? To get you on this cycle of like, oh, I'll play for a little bit without paying and then hit a wall that I got to pay $1 to get through. And then I'll play for a little while and then hit a wall. And it just goes over and over again. And I'm just like, wow, without this absurdist capitalist model that is evil and demonic at its core, this would never happen, right? That the people who are making video games and game franchises would be making video games for the art, for the love of making the game, and for the enjoyment of the player, right? But you can't have that. You can't have people just enjoying shit anymore. Yeah, more like Diablo Immortal. Got him. Yeah, Diablo Immortal. You guys have phones, right? Well, who doesn't remember, right? Like, oh, fresh meat. Come on, that was a real moment. Joe Biden says nothing will fundamentally change. In the meantime, get a job. Come on, man. Yeah, exactly, dude. Everybody get fucked, right? Everybody just get fucked. Oh, that's a weird one to think about. Working on the field, working off the land, trying not to steal what's in my brother's hand. What have I done to live this life? Lose my son and lose my wife. Oh yeah. Lying on the thresher floor. Don't wanna live here anymore. There ain't no place a soul like mine can go. There ain't no place a soul like mine will know. This song's a weird one, man. I remember I was in Portage Prairie, Manitoba. Which is my hometown where I grew up. And I was just fiddling around with my guitar. And it was like a spirit just came in and was like, I want you to tell this story. I want this story to be told. And it came in and I wrote it down as it happened, right? And it really is just this sad story of a farmer, a rural farmer who's been trying his damnedest out in the rural province of Manitoba, just trying to make a go for himself, and nothing works for him. And he ends up losing his son and losing his wife, and he himself ends up dying on this thresher floor of essentially a broken heart. And I can never explain. I don't play it for people very often because it's not a happy song, and I'm not convinced it's a very good song if I wanted to be really honest. But it's honest and it's true. It has an emotional truth, and I don't know why I felt the need to play it just there. I feel like, today's such an oddball day in the first place, so it's it's the kind of piece that, like, it just has and it does have the quality. And I would need to sit down and try to remember all the lyrics. I don't remember all of them offhand. I'm surprised I remembered as much as I did. But it does have the quality of like a song a ghost would write. Really, right? And I know that it's kind of odd. It's kind of odd that it felt like it just came to you. Yeah, that's what it kind of felt like, you know. And that's kind of the beauty of music, you know. That's why I do love playing music, and I love playing the guitar, and I love doing that kind of stuff, because, you know, people ask, like, where does this stuff come from? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, this is what bothers me the most about this whole individualism thing that's going on in today's society, is that, like, if you're an artist of any sort, you know that you're more than an individual. Like, you know, it is a fact of your existence. If you exist in any kind of artistry space whatsoever, because what you are doing as an artist is that you are grabbing onto the energy, the zeitgeist that exists out in the society, and then absorbing that and then re-articulating it back to the zeitgeist itself. And that's why certain things become popular and certain things don't. Because certain people or certain moments galvanize the zeitgeist more effectively than others. And there's no way to predict it. That's what makes it so fascinating. And like, a big problem with what's going on in our society is that the zeitgeist can be captured by big enough megaphones. That's the real truth. That if you have a big enough megaphone that is loud enough, you can seize control of the zeitgeist in big ways. You just have to take a look at Disney to see that that's true. Like, I don't think Disney's made a good movie in 10 years. All their stuff is shit. It's all bad. It's all bad. Like, and when I first started thinking about this, I started to think, okay, is this just like nostalgia glasses that I'm wearing? Is this just like an old man being like, things were better when I was a kid? Or is it actually the truth that the new Disney stuff is just garbage? And you go back and you actually watch some of Disney's good stuff, and I would say like The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, the original stuff, Aladdin, although Aladdin doesn't really age that well. A lot of the comedy doesn't make any sense anymore. But it's still a good film. Lion King, right? Even like Hunchback of Notre Dame, even when they start going into kind of a decline. Mulan is actually really good. Like, those films were actually good, right? And they stand up. Like, I would show any of those films to anybody today and be like, yeah, check these out. And it's not going to have that kind of same quality as if I tried to show somebody Casablanca. Like, you try to watch Casablanca today and you're like, when does the plot start? Like, when does the movie, like, you're half hour in and you're just like, okay, like, come on, like, tick tock, right? That, like, if they were to make Casablanca today, it would be literally 20 minutes long. It'd be like an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia or something, right? And but like, Disney has actually now gotten into, because they're only chasing the money, they have actually created a culture where the people who go see their films expect to hate it. They expect to hate the film that they're about to watch. They expect that they're going to sit down and trash the film. They expect that. And they keep coming back for it. So Disney just keeps doing it. And they just keep letting people hate watch. Right? And because Disney's got the biggest microphone and the biggest megaphone, they control the zeitgeist and they control the culture. And so people... it's not that they're controlled by it. But it's just that they think that the person who's speaking the loudest is the center of the culture. And so they're paying the most attention to it. That ain't got nothing on Train Simulator, Fallout 3. Yeah. Aladdin was incredibly racist. Yes, the racism in Aladdin is pretty obvious. Yeah, pretty. Like, I mean, you don't need to go too deep into like Aladdin and Jasmine are white. Jafar and the guards and everybody are essentially just like stereotypical sinister Arabs, right? Like, you don't need to do like a big deep dive analysis of Aladdin to see that this film was pretty fucking racist. Like, it comes out during like Operation Desert Storm and like Saddam Hussein and like all that shit going on in America, right? So like all of these like caricatures that that we all make fun of, or not make fun, but like that we all did make fun of, that we're all just like at that time, like in the WWE, like the Golden Sheik existed, right? All this kind of stuff. Oh yeah, lots of racism in Disney's history. And like my biggest complaint about that aspect of Disney's legacy is not that it happened, it's that they do everything they can to whitewash it, which I find to be quite despicable, frankly. That like Warner Brothers, the way they go about and have gone about the racism in their history has been far more appropriate, in my view, which is that like when Disney re-releases stuff, they'll scrub racist stuff out of it. They'll take characters that existed and they'll remove them. They'll reformat stuff, right? They'll eliminate it, or redo scenes or redo stuff, right? And they'll hold films in the vault and they won't remake them and they won't like do anything with them. Or if they do remake them, they purposefully scrub out certain things. You think about Dumbo, for example, right? Yeah, they removed the whole movie, Song of the South. Dumbo, are you kidding me? The Crows, right? Which, when I was a kid, I loved those Crows. That was my favorite song. Well, I ain't seen about anything till I see an elephant fly. I love that song. I still love that song, honestly. I thought that them omitting that song from the remake of Dumbo was a loss, in my view. It was a beautiful song. But of course, the Crows were all stereotypical, like, black minstrel type figures, all being voiced by white men, no less. The lead Crow's name was Jim, right? Like, that's racist. Yeah, I can't defend it. As much as I love the song, and as much as I love the spirit of the song, but, you know, but instead of admitting it and being like, yeah, that's racist, we did that. And this is what Warner Brothers does. They'll re-release something, or they'll have like a compilation of Bugs Bunny cartoons or something, and in the open face of it, they'll be like, hey guys, we made this in 1942. Lots of stuff changed since then, and we acknowledge that what you're about to see, some of it's pretty racist. But we're not going to whitewash the history. We're not going to pretend like we didn't do it, and nor are we going to attempt to defend it. So here it is in all its glory, right? And then you straight up see like Bugs Bunny doing like the stereotypical Asian, like with the eyes and the big buck teeth, right? Like the "we are Siamese if we please" kind of stuff that you see from like Lady and the Tramp and all that, right? And they're just straight up like, yeah, this is how it was. This is what we did. And I value that a lot more. The admission, the truth, right? Because what Disney does is so phony and so fake, and it makes me really question. It really makes me question if what Disney's actual intentions are, right? Like when I see these Warner Brothers cartoons and they've got those sort of things, I sort of think that's a much more mature response. right? They're not pretending. They're not trying to. They're apologizing for it. They're showing you their work, warts and all, and saying to the world, yeah, we should be judged on these qualities, and we admit our part of the history of racism in America. Let's be honest about it, and let's address it. And let's be adults about this. While we watch these fucking cartoons, but let's be adults about it, right? And have some adult conversations, and witness how far we've come. Witness where we were, and see where we are now. Whereas what Disney does, I'm very much like, it's like they want to pretend it never happened. It's like they want to absolve themselves somehow. It's like they don't want to actually discuss it. And they don't want to have in the zeitgeist of Disney this idea that at any point in Disney's history could they have ever been racist whatsoever. And their solution is to sort of try to sweep it under the rug. And I suspect that someone from Disney would try to argue that, well, this is a form of maturing and growing up to try and eliminate this sort of stuff from our discourse. But again, it sort of flows in. It gives a lot of credence to the right-wing sort of wokeism censorship narrative, doesn't it? That if Disney is willing to self-censor like this, then they're certainly going to be willing to censor you. And I just think it does create a more toxic environment, because it creates this constant inquisitorship, this constant hunting for what's the thing we need to scrub out. What's the thing for us to scrub out? Like, Disney cancels itself. It cancels its own content, and it cancels its own stuff, and then even does like revisionist remakes, where they like remake a movie with a character and then revise it and change it and put in new stuff to try to pretend like that's a way to acknowledge. But that's not acknowledging anything, right? Like, that's not actually acknowledging the truth. That's not showing people what you did and standing on it and saying, this is what we did, right? And we apologize for it. We don't want to be this anymore, but this is what it was, right? Like, you think about something like Song of the South. And Song of the South is easily the most egregious, right? Like, forget about like somebody like Donald Duck doing blackface. Forget about the Asian stereotyping that for sure happens. Forget about all of that. Song of the South, without a doubt, is the most egregious thing that Disney ever did, where they took the history of slavery, right? The history of slavery, and basically turned it into zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day. Like, literally, like, the life of a slave in America was like this whistling Dixie, like, oh, it's so great to be a slave working for these white guys, right? Isn't it wonderful? We're all taken care of down here in the South. Zippity-day. My, oh my, what a wonderful day. Like, get completely fucked. Get completely fucked. Get out of here. Like, that's some, like, high-level fascist propaganda right there. Like, literally one step down from just, like, the guy, like, whistling past a swastika, being like, boy, I'm sure glad those Germans won that war. Right? Like, but at the same time, I think it's wrong for them to censor it. I think it's wrong for them to remove it. I think it's wrong for them to pretend like it didn't happen. I think it's wrong for them to take it and put it in the vault and close their eyes and close their ears and go la 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 la, right? And I really do think that this is sort of the dark heart of what's going on at Disney, that they want to be moral arbiters. They want to participate in an ethical discussion of what is right or wrong in society. And I don't hold that against them at all. I think that there are lots of shows and institutions and media that play this role. Star Trek Star Trek was like this, right? Taking a strong moral or ethical position and defending it, which I really admire about Star Trek. But Disney's attempting to engage in that kind of communication, which often gets them accused of wokeism or spreading the message. I hear a lot of that. But they're attempting to engage in that moral conversation without being honest about their own past. And if you're never going to be honest about your own past, and you're not going to show it, and you're not going to acknowledge it, and you're not going to be serious about it, then what precedes it will never be true and honest. And in the end, what Disney engages in, more often than not, smacks of pandering. And just smacks of like, oh look, we put we made the goofy guy from Beauty and the Beast, Gaston's little buddy, right? We made him gay, so gay people will come and see our movies now. Like, it all has this kind of like it's not actually trying to make a point or defend a position. It's all pandering. And it's all just them trying to sweep everything under the rug and pretend like it didn't happen, while simultaneously trying to tell us that they are somehow the arbiters of moral truth, or should be taken seriously as moral communicators. It's just it's just a lot of hypocrisy in this conversation, and I don't respect it. And I don't really respect Disney as an institution anymore. Like, I used to be like a Disney kid. Like, I loved Disney and what Disney was producing and the stuff that they were making. And there was even a behind-the-scenes documentary called The Sweatbox, which I highly advise everybody go take a look. It was about the making of the film. Emperor's New Groove, which is a like little gem in the Disney analog in the Disney catalog, right? The Emperor's New Groove. It's a weird film, very, very comedic. Kind of harkens back to Disney's like 50s and 60s sort of style comedy, but modernized in kind of a cool setting. But so Sting does all the music for this film, and in his contract he says, my wife gets to do a behind-the-scenes documentary making of. And they agreed. They're like, sure, that sounds great. And what they captured was a complete and total train wreck. That the making of The Emperor's New Groove was a complete and total disaster from start to finish. That the director of the film was the director of The Lion King, and so they gave him a lot of room to work, and he goes down to South America, takes tours of Peru. He wants to tell like a dramatic story that's pretty much like the poor man, rich man story, where the prince and the pauper switch places, right, and experience life from another angle, and with a couple of other threads and all this kind of stuff, and the whole thing seems to be going so well until the Disney execs show up. And these two executives were fine gentlemen. Like, I don't want to besmirch them at all, right? They're there to make a product, and they basically say it's not working. The whole thing is from the ground to the top is failing. I don't know who to root for. I don't know who we're following. I don't know what the story's about. You got to start again. And so when they start again, the story that starts to emerge is the story that's in Emperor's New Groove, with Cusco becoming the llama and all of this. And the director leaves the project because he's just like, this isn't the film I wanted to make. I'm going to leave the project. And then the whole project goes through a series of like literally, at one point they were going to eliminate the character of Yzma. The character was designed by the same guy who designed Cruella de Vil for the original 101 Dalmatians, and he literally goes and fights for Yzma to be in this film, and they acquiesce because of his legacy with Disney and because he's fighting for it. So they keep Yzma in. They've already got, like, John Goodman, whatever his name was, who did Kuzco, I forget his name. Eartha Kitt they'd already done all the voice work. They'd already hired everybody. They'd already paid them to do all of this work. At one point, they hire a composer to compose a music for the entire film. They listen to what he's done. They pay him. They listen to what he's done and go, nope. And they hire someone else and they do another composition of it. Like, every aspect of the film was a complete and total train wreck disaster. And the reason why Disney is suppressing this so much, and I wish they wouldn't, the reason why they're suppressing it so much is that the entire time the executives are being very, very ruthless. Not in terms of their presentation. They were actually quite kind and generous to people, I thought, and being very lovely to everybody around them. But in terms of what their expectations were high. And they said constantly, they were like, look, we're not trying to get people to watch this film, we're trying to get people to watch the next film. And if we start betraying them, right, if this film sucks, they won't come to the next one. So this one's got to be good. And so they were ruthless. They were ruthless mercenaries coming in there with, like, big, happy smiles and treating everybody with respect and decency and dignity. And I really wish they wouldn't suppress this film, because I feel like it really shows you how difficult it is, actually, to make good art, and how difficult it is to make something that people like, and how difficult it is, and the expectations, and the pressure of it, and the high expectations that Disney used to have for their art that they were producing, and that they actually did talk about it that way. And what was crazy is that at the end of this film, they ask one of these executives, what do you wish you had done differently on this project? And his response was, I wish I had been harder earlier. And I was just like, bro, like, you came in and nuked this project, and we're constantly tearing it apart, and constantly, like literally, guys, Sting recorded 6 songs for this project, and they cut all of them but one, which made it to the credit sequence. Like, it was a train wreck, but it was a beautiful train wreck. It was a beautiful train wreck to watch. But it's so indicative of how Disney has become as a company, where they want everybody to pretend as though it's all just rainbow and sunshine, and they never want to be honest with us. They never want to level with us and just say to us, like, yeah, this is what it takes. This is what it takes. You want to make art? You want to make art for Disney? Right? This is what it's going to look like. We don't fuck around. Like, we're going to treat you nice, and we're going to be respectful, and we're going to be honest, but we're going to be honest, and we're going to rip your shit apart. And they did. Like, they ripped Sting apart, for God's sakes. They would take some of his songs. They took some of his songs and literally tore him apart in front of him. Like, they're not fucking around. And I wish that was more of what we would actually see from Disney, instead of this fake pandering bullshit that we would constantly get. It was just always, like, totally not. David Spade, that was it. Ugh. Yeah, don't worry, everyone's gonna flip conservative soon. Here. Disney will go broke since they've gone woke. They'll never go broke. They can't go broke now. They literally can't go broke now. They own towns now. Like, they Walt Disney World still makes them fucking billions of dollars. Like, they have so much money that, like, they bought The Simpsons, they bought Star Wars, they bought Marvel. Like, they can't go bankrupt. They're, like, literally, they're the only show in town. They're also the only people actually making money. Yeah, new things are heavily relying on a lot of nostalgia bait. Yeah, the artistic spirit is dead, replaced by the urge to churn out cheap, soulless, copy-paste material. Yeah. Well, I mean, nostalgia... What really drives me crazy is that is a lot of the revisionism is what drives me crazy, and how dishonest it all is. Like, I wrote a script. I wrote a script for Jafar. I don't know why, because it's never going to get made, right? Disney won't even look at your scripts unless you work for Disney. And getting a job at Disney is, like, harder than anything else. But I wrote a script for the character Jafar. And I think that I did a damn fine job of it. I have a read through that I even did recorded. If anybody wants it, right? You get into the Discord and I'll send it to you. And it starts from the moment he became a genie, right? And it goes through his growth, realizing what a bastard he was, going through the evil deeds that he did as he goes through time, right? My favorite part about the script is that it loops around, like the time loop goes, and then Jafar becomes the original genie, and he meets Aladdin from that perspective, right? And the story goes through that kind of way, through him becoming freed by Aladdin, and then his realization that because he has all of this power, he could become the man he has learned to hate, which is Jafar. And I found the script to be very honest to the character, very open about his past and his history, but also honest in the way that he seeks a genuine reform and a genuine desire to change, and learns to love his place in the universe. Whereas what Disney is doing is looking at their evil characters of the past. Like Maleficent is the greatest example. Like Maleficent is one of the great Disney villains, right? Like really hard to go darker and more sinister than Maleficent. Like she's straight up like an evil witch that turns into a dragon and gets like she gets slain by a knight for true love and shit. Like she's putting people into eternal slumbers and stuff. Like it's really difficult to walk that back. And they tried with Maleficent. They were just like, yeah, you know what? It turns out that she was she was spurned. That the king was the evil one. So it's just straight up revisionism, right? It's just straight up bullshit revisionism, where we're all just supposed to be like, oh, I guess Maleficent was good because we got lied to. The story was wrong, right? And I'm just like, get fucked. Like you're just telling a different story. That's all you're doing. And that's all Disney ever does. They go back, they dredge up some figure who we have come to love, even if it is love to hate them, and then they change them and destroy their legacy for reasons that are their own, right? Like literally, like, and I get real suspicious of this, because it's like, why are you guys trying to make me love these villains so much? Why is it that you're trying to make these villains more appealing? Why is it that I'm constantly being told that I need to respect psychopaths? Why is it that, like, arms dealers, literal serial killers, just overt, aggressive, narcissistic psychos are constantly being presented to me as if I'm supposed to be on their side, right? Like, I'm not. I'm genuinely not on these people's side, because I think that it's weird. Like, unless there is actually genuinely a moment where they go, oh shit, I am a real shitbag person and I need to go on a journey of self-discovery in order to change who I am. Which they never do. They never do. Disney's whole shtick is just saying, oh, they were misunderstood. That's their whole shtick. It's not, yeah, they were evil and they changed their ways and here's the path it took them. And you know why? Because Disney doesn't know how that works. They don't understand that. They don't understand the process of what it is to go from being a bad person to a good person, right? Because they're not interested in it, right? Because fundamentally their entire ethos and their entire story is, we always were good, right? You just misunderstood, right? And you see how this all ties in together, right? That, oh, we've scrubbed away our racist past. We scrubbed away Song of the South. We scrubbed away all this kind of stuff. We were always good. You just misunderstood. You just misunderstood. We were always good. And the way that we can prove it is by revisionism. By changing it. Changing the events of how it happened. So instead of telling stories about how they were evil or bad or in the wrong, and then going on a journey of self-discovery to honestly admit it, apologize, and attempt to move on as a changed entity or a changed individual, They tell stories about how Maleficent was good actually. You just didn't get the whole story, right? Oh, Cruella de Vil, one of the most egregiously evil characters ever put to film, perhaps, right? Her entire and her shtick is not that she wants to take over the world. Her shtick is literally, I'm going to kill puppies to make a coat, right? Like, she's one of the great psychopaths in the Disney lore. But no, she's actually good. If you watch Cruella, she's actually good, and it just shows that it just speaks to me of the childishness of our entire culture. Is this an adult way to deal with these things? Is this an adult is sweeping it all under the rug and pretending as though it didn't happen a good way to deal with these overt, obvious, racist and troubling, what would we call problematic characters, right? And like, and I actually think there's something, it's something about they don't want to go on a journey of self-discovery. They don't want to actually, and they don't know how. They don't know how to tell a story like that. So, which is what made me so proud about my script, my Jafar script, because he does go on that journey of self-discovery. He does actually get to a point where he realizes that he was wrong, and that the way he was living, and the folly of power, right? The folly of power. But Disney doesn't want to tell a story that's about the folly of power, right? If anything, Disney's narrative is exactly the opposite. It's that you need to find the power within yourself, right? That the power is yours. You just need to seize the power, right? You just need to seize the power. That the power is there, and it's just being withheld from you. And so you need to seize the power, and then that'll be better, because instead of the power being wielded by the traditional power structure, it's now being wielded by you. And so, therefore, it is good, right? Like, there's a deep kind of fascism within Disney's ethos, and that's really what it boils down to. Like, think about any Disney movie you've seen recently, right? Like any of them, like Moana, like any of this stuff, right? It's all about the protagonist seizing power and finding their own personal power. And that narrative is actually, it's good. Like, Moana becomes this powerful thing, and that's good because Moana was good, and we know that she was good because we said so, right? And so if you follow this ethos of advice of going forth and finding your own personal power and seizing power for yourself, then it'll be good because we say that you're good. And we say that you're good because, of course you are, because you're paying us to tell you that you're good, right? Instead of creating a narrative that says power is dangerous. Power is dangerous. Power by itself is a dangerous thing and can be wielded even by people you like in aggressively dark and sinister ways. And when that occurs, what journey do you need to go on, and what conclusions do you need to draw? And here's something that you will never ever see a Disney character actually do, which is get the power and then relinquish it. The way that, like in the story The Lord of the Rings, because that's fundamentally what the Lord of the Rings is all about, right? So, sorry that we're not going through more news, guys. This glasses situation. So I'm talking about Disney. I'm talking about Disney today. Like, in The Lord of the Rings, right? I've talked about this before. The story of The Lord of the Rings is all about power. It's the power of the One Ring, and the question of whether or not the One Ring can be wielded for good or not. And humans, of course, throughout the entire script are constantly saying, Boromir explicitly states, right? We could use the ring for good, right? And the other races and the wizards are like, no, you don't use the ring uses you. What do I constantly say about Nazis? You don't use Nazis. Nazis use you. Because Nazis aren't interested in ethics or morality or improving things or any of that. They're interested exclusively in power and seizing power for themselves. And the story of Frodo and Sam's ascension up the mountain is fraught with this constant battle and Gollum's deception over Frodo because of his desire to seize power for himself. That fundamentally, while the Lord of the Rings is this planet-sweeping war with deep spiritual characters and impacts, that the fundamental battle that existed within the story existed between those three characters, and between Frodo, Gollum, and Sam, and the real lesson for people to learn from Lord of the Rings is that if you attempt to fight power alone, you will lose. You will lose. Frodo lost that fight. He ascended to Mount Doom, and when the moment came for him to throw the ring into the fire, he said no, and he tried to keep the ring. And but the other lesson for us to learn is that the greatest enemy of power are the most virulent adherents, because it is their actions that will ultimately lead to their own destruction. And that's Gollum, seizing the ring of power for himself, but only to be flung into the volcano. And the only way that such a fight can be undertaken and won at all is if anybody in the conversation truly believes that the battle can be won. And that's Samwise. It is actually a beautiful story, isn't it? It's a beautiful story, full of sympathy, brotherhood, fear, terror. But ultimately, it's a story of power, love, and vengeance. It's a brilliant story that has within it, let's admit it, its own racism. Right? Tolkien himself wasn't a pure, innocent man in this regard. The new Beauty and the Beast was the only good remake movie they made. Barf. Barf! I really hated the Beauty and the Beast remake, dude. I really hated it. It's full of this kind of revisionism. It's full of this kind of nonsense. Visually, it's an inferior film. The music is worse. Just technically, the Beauty and the Beast remake was worse. Like, in almost every way. And all of the additions that they put in, all of the new stuff, it didn't make the story better. It really was just pandering. Like, all of the new stuff that they added around, and so much of Beauty and the Beast was just like meta commentary. That's what pissed me off the most. That it was all just like Disney responding to Disney, and Disney responding to fans of Disney, and like suddenly all of the townsfolk are mean-spirited jerks and assholes, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, no, like no, and like Gaston's relationship with what's the little guy's name? I forget his name all of a sudden. His relationship with his like little toady guy became really weird, and that like why Gaston is so threatening and why he's such a terrifying figure is the banality of the people around him. That's what always made him the sinister, dark figure that he actually was. That everybody in the town seemed lovely and wonderful and were very, and sure were gossipy. They were gossiping behind their backs about Belle, but they weren't overtly alienating her, right? and so there's something of a mismatch going on there. But so their banality and, frankly, neighborly friendliness masks the dark, sinister heart of their admiration for a figure like Gaston. And by making the village folks themselves these dark, sinister sort of people, it kind of it diffuses Gaston's own narrative and his own hubris, and then, like, they try to say that a lot of Gaston has PTSD, and they're trying to pin a lot of his actions on that kind of stuff, which I feel like is an absolute. They absolve him in many ways. That Gaston becomes just a victim of his own circumstance, instead of a victim of his own hubris and his desire to seize power through the domination and control of Belle. I just while they didn't destroy Belle and the Beast like they've done to other figures in their storytelling, they didn't really help anything. It wasn't a better story. If I had to sit down and say which one of these two am I going to watch, I'm always going to pick the original. Always. It's a better story, well told, better told, frankly. And all the new shit is just super pandery. LeFou, I'm afraid I've been thinking. A dangerous pastime, I know. That crazy old kook is Belle's father, and his sanity is only so-so. Well, the wheels in my head have been turning since I laid eyes on that loony old man. I promised myself I'd be married to Belle, and right now I'm creating a plan. Yeah, it's good shit. That's good shit right there. Gaston's story contains one of the best written musical lines in any musical ever, which is the line, "As a specimen, yes, I'm intimidating." It's so perfect as a line. The cadence of it, the rhyming structure within it. As a specimen, yes, I'm intimidating. It's perfect. It's a perfectly written line. That just, like, whoever was responsible for writing that line, as a specimen, yes, I'm intimidating. Just structurally perfect to the character. Absolutely perfect. Have you guys noticed that I have opinions about this? I've heard good things about Soul, and I've heard good things about Encanto. I just can't be arsed anymore. I just can't be arsed anymore. Like, I just am so deeply skeptical of Disney as a brand. I just don't think they're being genuine or honest anymore. Pixar seems to be the one place that people keep going to. They keep, like, funneling me into. They're like, but Pixar. And I'm just like, if they were telling stories like A Bug's Life, even, right? Which is actually literally a story of an underclass standing up against the overclass and throwing off the chains of oppression, right? If that's the story that they were telling, I'd be like, oh, okay. But it really does seem to, all their stories really just do seem to boil down to, like, you need to individualize your individualism to seal your to get your individual power, and you will be successful. And if you're not successful, it's because you suck. But of course you'll be successful because you're you, and you're giving us money, right? So I see it, corruption, see it everywhere. It consumes and ruins all, right? No, methane. The word isn't corruption. The word is capitalism. Also, Cruella, I'm really into how fabulous she is. Yeah, that crazy how her rotary phone was the devil's face. I live. Yeah, Pixar carries Disney in terms of well-developed plots now. Soul was one of the favorite movies ever. Soul was awesome, like a DMT trip. The thing I love about the story... it was told to his children as a bedtime story, and his story convinced him to write down his story. Oh, you're talking about Lord of the Rings, yeah. Okay, I agree. The remake of Beauty and the Beast wasn't better than the original, and all the animated classics are better. Beauty and the Beast. Oh yeah, if I was to take all of the remakes that got made, can I actually tell you? I disagree. There is one remake that Disney did that actually delivered on the story, and that was the remake that they did of Cinderella. They did a remake of Cinderella in like 2009 or something. I don't remember exactly when it came out. And it was literally just like the story of Cinderella is that she is being abused by her stepmother and her evil sisters. A fucking fairy godmother comes, sends her to the thing. She falls in love with a prince. They live happily ever after. And I was just like, and the only little change that they did to the format of the story was that they gave us one scene of Cinderella and the prince actually interacting with one another. They like bump into each other on the road, so that you can see that this guy's actually a good guy, right? They just give him a little character, right? That instead of just being, "Hi, I'm a prince. Look at how handsome I am. Of course you love me. I'm a prince." They actually show that he's a kind man who is who isn't using his wealth in an abusive sort of way, and so they tell the story, and you know what you end up with? You end up with beautiful CGI effects. They really take advantage of the CGI and the growing of the pumpkin and the changing of the mice into people and like all that kind of stuff. They really revel in the splendor. The dresses are unbelievably fabulous, just like mwah, absolutely immaculate. The sets, like everything's great. Like the acting is as it is, right? Like it's a very simple story. You don't need to like break your bank account. But it's not like I was supposed to sympathize. It wasn't like Disney tried to jam in a narrative that said, "But the stepmother, she's just misunderstood, you guys. The stepmother's she's under a lot of pressure, you guys. You know, she's a single mother trying to raise 3 daughters. You know, it's a tough thing." Like, they didn't do that. They were like, "Yeah, she's a bitch. We all know." That's the whole point. That's the whole point of the fucking story, is that she's an evil stepmother. That's like literally the whole point. And they just took the story and they just told it and they did it the best they possibly could. My only little tiny critique of the film is that Helena Bonham Carter, you know who I'm talking about. She played the fairy godmother, and they did some like little CGI effects on her face to kind of make her look a little weird. It was right in that period of time when people were like, "Oh, we can mess with people's faces, and we can mess with the way people look. Here's a magical fairy godmother. Let's mess with the way she looks." And it didn't help, and it was quite distracting, but at the same time, I'm like, I didn't need to ruin the whole thing. They tried something. Sure, it was a miss, but they swung. I can admire that they swung. And at the end of the day, they took a classic story, they told it, no bullshit. They were just like, yeah, classic story, well told. Slam dunk. Cinderella. High recommend from me. And I did catch the first season of the new DuckTales, though. Surprisingly decent, I think. Oh, very good. I haven't seen any Disney films since like Lion King or The Little Mermaid, I think. Yeah, you're not totally. No, it wasn't Hilary Duff. Was it Hilary Duff? If it was Hilary Duff, good for her, dude. Good for her, dude. If it was Hilary Duff, Disney Cinderella most recent. Because I can't get enough of that. Yeah. 2015. Oh, 2015, okay. Kenneth Branagh directed it, right? So Kenneth Branagh is, like, my background is theater. I've studied a lot of theater. And Kenneth Branagh is one of these Shakespearean actors that comes out of Britain, who he directed the first Thor film, which everybody kind of panned, and I was like, I thought it was the best one of the whole Marvel franchise, because he had really grabbed on to the Shakespearean quality of Thor as a character. But the reality is that people don't want to see Shakespeare. They want to see Thor be like, "Oh, I work with this guy, ha ha ha." Like, that's what they truly wanted from Thor. Whereas Branagh was like, Thor is the god of thunder, and everything was big and epic. That's how you get, like, the fellow that played Odin. Man, I'm forgetting everybody's name today. But that's how you get like big name people onto this Thor. That's why Natalie Portman was there. That's why. Come on, bud. He was Hannibal Lecter. Come on, bud. That's a bad name to forget. Anyway, that's why these guys were on the project, because they're like, oh, Kenneth Branagh. This is going to be a serious Shakespearean epic, and it was. I thought that Thor was really great, the first Thor, because it was Kenneth Branagh bringing Shakespearean chops. And the only thing anybody will ever say about the original Thor is, oh, tilty camera. This is a bit weird. Well, fuck off. You got Cate Blanchett. Here we go. Yeah, this is it for sure. And straight up, it was just like it was cleanly told. Lily James, Richard Madden, Cate Blanchett was the stepmother. She did a great job. Helena Bonham Carter is the fairy godmother. Yeah, high recommend for me, guys. Like it's Cinderella. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you're not gonna watch it and be like riveted. You're not gonna be like, whoa, like my life has changed. But if you want a clean story, well told, beautiful actors in exotic locales, magic, whimsy, without any fucking bullshit, easy recommend for me. Easily the best remake that Disney has done, and it's 100% because they looked at the source material and they said, well, let's just do that. Yeah, that's good. Like, I would... Anthony Hopkins, thank you. Oh my god, it killed my brain, dude. I was just, like, suffering. I was suffering. Like, they keep talking... They're doing a Little Mermaid remake, are they? Which is going to be awful. Mermaid remake. Yeah, this is going to be a fucking total disaster, dude. And what I wish that they would do with The Little Mermaid... like, already I'm looking at this cast, guys, and I'm just like Halle... Oh, I misread this. I misread because of the glasses. Okay, no, never mind. Javier Bardem, eh? Like, they're always trying to just jam Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. Just constantly with just like, it's got to be the name recognition, right? Like, it's constantly got to be that one. They can't just tell the good story, right? Like, look, Little Mermaid is basically as straightforward a story as you can find, right? Underwater sea princess falls in love with overwater prince. Sea witch makes it happen, but with a monkey's ball. Princess defeats witch, love conquers all. Although, the original script, or the original story, Sorry guys, my dog. The original story has the prince marry someone else, and the Little Mermaid throw herself into the ocean and become the sea foam of the ocean. Because the actual moral of the original story was princes will never marry anyone outside of their class. That's the actual moral of the Little Mermaid. That in fact, love does not conquer all in this reality. That princes marry for political gain, not for love. And if they were to tell that story, I'd be like, bro, I would be like, man, Disney came to play. Like, Disney's here to fucking not fuck around. This movie is going to be a train wreck, dude. It's going to be a total fucking train wreck. Ursula should have been Ginger Minj from Drag Race. That would be everything. Well, and Ursula's so extra. She's definitely the most extra of the villains, right? Like, who's more extra than Ursula? Like, she's like, just you just look at her. You just look at her, and you're just like I think the only competitor for most extra villain, Ursula. Like, look at her. Just look at this, dude. Oh, that shot alone. But, like, look at her. Like, that's about as extra as it gets, right? Doesn't get more extra than this. And the only villain, I think, that has a chance to compete would be, hear me out, Captain Hook. Captain Hook, right? Dustin Hoffman's Captain Hook was really, really good, by the way. Right? Your voice? Are you guys just catching up to me singing? Is that what's happening? What's happening? Oh my god. I remember seeing a cartoon of The Little Mermaid, not by Disney, telling the real version. I remember seeing her stabbing herself with scissors falling to the water. Really? What? Hold on. I want to find that. Little Mermaid movie actual ending. Dude, I wanna see this film. This is the film I want to see. Because I feel like it's I just watched that not too long ago. Hoffman's performance. I remember when I watched this film Hook when I was a kid. I watched Hook, and I was all about Robin Williams, right? Robin Williams is so good. Haha, Robin Williams, I love it. And then I watched it again in my early 20s, and I was just watching the starting credits, and Dustin Hoffman's name came up, and I was like, Dustin Hoffman? Who's Dustin Hoffman in this film? I don't remember Dustin Hoffman being in this film, because by then I had a better understanding. I'd seen, like, Rain Man. Come on, dude, Tootsie. Probably one of his strongest roles ever, Tootsie. And I just couldn't for the life of me. I was just like, I don't remember who Dustin Hoffman is in this film. And then Hook comes in, and I'm like, oh my god, Dustin Hoffman was Hook the whole time, and I didn't even know it. Like, that's good acting right there. Like, that's how you know that Dustin Hoffman did a bang-up job of this. When you're just like, you think it's a different person entirely, right? And he did such a good job in Hook, man. And then, of course, from then on, whenever I think of Hook, I'm like, no, Dustin Hoffman. He crushed it. He crushed it. Like, Robin Williams was Robin Williams, but Dustin Hoffman did a fucking great job in Hook. He was the best, right? And the, oh, what was I just... Oh, yeah, I had mentioned Tootsie. Tootsie's an interesting one, because Dustin Hoffman tells this really interesting story about how... If you guys don't know what the movie Tootsie is that Dustin Hoffman's character has to cross-dress. I forget for what reason he has to do it, but it ends up that he has to be a man dressing as a woman, living in America. That really highlights the difficulties that modern women have to go through, and his sort of being confronted with living as a woman while previously having been a man. And Dustin Hoffman tells this really fascinating story about, he says, so they sat me in the makeup chair, and they put the makeup on me, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I said, oh, okay, but can you make me a beautiful woman? Like, I look like a woman, but can you make me a beautiful woman? And they looked back at me, and they said, well, I mean, Dustin, like, we're working with what we've got. And Dustin Hoffman, he stops, and he goes, and I thought to myself, how many times in my life have I ignored someone, a woman, because of their appearance, and it dawned on me then that there have been so many times in my life where clearly people who have beautiful, vibrant internal lives, interesting and brilliant women, I have disregarded simply because I didn't find them to be sexually attractive or physically attractive to me. And so from that moment on, Tootsie was not a comedy to me. And I've since seen Tootsie from that perspective, that Dustin Hoffman's not in a comedy. Because everybody at that time watches Tootsie and goes, oh, ha, 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 right? Like, it's a man dressed as a woman. He's encountering all these wacky scenarios and situations. But then to recognize that for Dustin Hoffman, it's not a comedy. It's actually a genuine telling of a straight man coming to terms with the hard reality that unattractive women are people. It's a brilliant film. It's and in my view, one of his best. One of his best. Because of this. Yeah, he was like Oldman. Yeah, unrecognizable, perfectly became the role. Well, and he also managed. Rain Man was widely critically acclaimed, and it really was because Dustin Hoffman managed to capture this mental illness and portray this mentally ill character so genuinely and honestly. Believably, I think would be the word, right? That every single time I see a film where there is a character with a mental illness that's being portrayed, there's still an element of just like they're faking it, and you can tell that they're just putting it on, right? You can tell, you can see through it, you know. It's very rare the actor who actually does manage to capture a believable mental illness. Like, I think about like Forrest Gump, for example, right? Everybody loves Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump's a very charming story, but I didn't actually think that Tom Hanks was like remarkable in that film, nor did I think that his portrayal of that mental illness was particularly believable, right? Like, it still looked like Tom Hanks pretending to have a mental illness, right? And even like Joker, as much as I love the movie Joker and I loved Joaquin's acting and his presentation, because of the manic nature of the mental illness, it always did seem like it was kind of being put on. I've only seen 2 instances in film where I've come away from the film being like, I believed it. I actually believed it. Rain Man is one of them. And What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in What's Eating Gilbert Grape with Johnny Depp. It's a film he did when he was very young. I think he was literally like 16 or 17 when he did that film. And his depiction and his presentation of the mental illness that young man had was extremely believable and extremely like when I finally when Titanic came out, and I was like, oh hey, it's that kid from What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Oh, he doesn't actually have a mental illness? That's literally what I said. Yeah, Joker did a bad job of presenting mental illness. I thought the writer was using mental illness as a crutch to move the movie without explaining things. Well, I also Joker's an interesting one in this that like the mental illness was there. It was present, but it wasn't really what the film was about. Interestingly, like, so much so that many of the critics who panned the film didn't even talk about mental illness in their write-up. Because people with mental illnesses don't have explanations for things they do or something. Well, and I mean, I shouldn't say that it's not what the film was about, because the theme of the film, without a doubt, is what happens to people who are abandoned by their societies. Right? Or what happens in a society that abandons its most vulnerable. And the answer the film gives is that the vulnerable will fight back. Right? That they will not go out quietly. Yeah, like, why in God's name did I not get to understand what was in his mom's documents from the hospital? Yeah. Like, I don't think Joker was a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination, but it definitely was a standout film for me from this superhero moment, right? Like, we've had like a decade now of all this superhero stuff, and it's definitely in the top of the stories being told, because I feel like, unlike a lot of this superhero stuff, it's taking a strong moral position and defending it, you know? Which, at this stage in the game, in terms of how bad our storytelling is as a culture, that's becoming good enough for me. That, like, so many stories that we're told are literally just, so here's this character, he does this, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and he gets the MacGuffin, and he saves the day, and the movie ends. That's like 90% of the stuff that's come out, right? Like, Peter Parker gets bit by a spider, becomes Spider-Man, and then he meets the Green Goblin, and then the Green Goblin robs a bank, and then Spider-Man tries to stop the Green Goblin, and then the Green Goblin beats up Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man recovers, and then finds out where the Green Goblin is, and then fights the Green Goblin, who's trying to destroy the city, and then saves the city. Spider-Man stands on an American flag, movie over, right? Tony Stark gets captured, makes the Iron Man suit, fights his way to freedom. A rival CEO guy tries to steal his technology, and then they fight, and Tony wins, stands in front of an American flag, movie over. Like, this happens, then this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Usually with no complications whatsoever. It's very linear. It's very straightforward. And most of the time, Spider-Man is a bit of an exception, but most of the time in a lot of these Marvel movies, if the other guy had won, the universe probably would have continued on without him, right? Like, if what was the guy's name? Obadiah, I think his name was in in Iron Man. Like, if Obadiah beats Tony Stark, then it's likely that he just becomes part of the Avengers Initiative, right? It's just likely that this guy now, instead of Tony Stark, becomes the guy that continues on with the Avengers, and that Nick Fury just approaches him, and it's just like, oh, okay, you're the guy, right? So and it's usually the case in these Marvel movies where it works out like that like two of these forces come at each other, fight, and one wins, and so they move forward. But if, like, Captain America loses to the other guy, then the consequences to the universe are almost meaningless. That's usually the way of it in Marvel movies, because in truth, the stakes are so elusive, usually, in Marvel films. Like, it's always like the planet is blowing up, or we're destroying a city. Like, it's always that kind of scale. So it's never personal. It's never character driven. It's never built into the fabric of the character. It's always just, I'm saving the planet, and so I'm the good guy, right? It's always like that. It's just terrible storytelling, right? Whereas Joker told a different story, right? Joker told a different story. And not only did Joker tell a different story, Joker tells a story that in many ways indicts our perception of who are these superheroes, right? Like Joker, the true individual that gets indicted from the Joker story is Batman himself. That it is very difficult to root for Batman after Joker. That, like, and this narrative is starting to seep into the wider culture. People are beginning to see it this way. That, like, wait a minute, Batman is a billionaire inheritor who uses his wealth to destroy the society and literally physically assault the mentally handicapped and disabled. Like, this is the person that we're supposed to be rooting for. So instead of this guy spending money on social services and maybe some security for Arkham, right? Like, he's literally just going to buy another bat jet, right? And, like, the more you actually dwell on the character of Batman, the more ridiculous he becomes. So you're telling me that a group of guys made a jet shaped like a bat, and everybody's just like, yeah, we don't know who it's for. Who could be Batman? I don't know who Batman could possibly be. Like, who commissioned the fucking a vehicle that looks like a goddamn bat? Like, what? Who made that? Who's designing that? But these films always obliterate the worker, right? The working class is just an invisible force. These jets just get plucked out of the air. I'm a billionaire, therefore, right? Like, there isn't, like, anybody in the design chain. There isn't anybody in the workforce that's like, wait a minute. This is the 700,553rd boomerang that I've designed that's shaped like a bat. Why am I constantly making technology that's shaped like bats? Real head scratcher here. Oh well. Says here I shouldn't put the Wayne Enterprises logo on it. Okay. Real head scratcher here. Like, I feel like people would put it together pretty quick. I feel like it wouldn't be a secret. Like, it really wouldn't. And yet we're all just like, yeah, Batman, who could he be? Yeah, with Batman money, there could be far better things done for the town, for sure. Can't say as I remember What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I did see it. I remember it was good. I think I might need to refresh my memory. What's Eating Gilbert Grape is one of those movies that would never get made anymore, because it's a deeply personal family story. That's really what it is. And all of the characters in it are deeply flawed, deeply tied to the society that created them, but also deeply lovable, right? Like, Gilbert's just a kid trying to get a job, trying to make a go of it in this sort of post-Reagan neoliberal hellscape that's getting around him. His brother has a mental illness. His mother is desperately overweight. And it's just like a story about Americans. And so, of course, they're never going to make that story, because it's a story that shows the weakness of the American empire, and shows the deeply flawed nature of the system that we're doing, and how it increases the burden of the citizen in big and serious ways. And it's a story that gets that across while telling a deeply personal, character-driven story about this fellow Gilbert Grape. So it's a story that would never get told now. That you would never ever see something like that get made and promoted, because it's got to have, like, you know, we're so spectacle driven now, right? Everything's got to have like CGI to the max, and no one's gonna go see it unless it's got like 1,000 explosions and dinosaurs and shit, right? If it's not like a big sweeping adventure, nobody gives a crap at all. Best hero story is Invincible. Invincible's a good one for sure. Because and again, Invincible is so good because it's fundamentally, Invincible is a family drama. That's what makes that story so good. That the story isn't about another hero trying to just save the planet. That the story really is about a father and a son coming to terms with each other, and the father's desires ruddering up against the son's expectations and desires, which that's really the beating heart of Invincible, which really does make it a stronger piece in a lot of ways. Like this blithe bullshit that gets made by Disney, like their Star Wars stuff, right? Who gives a shit about the new Star Wars trilogy at all? It's the most pointless story ever told. Here's the entire trilogy of the new Star Wars stuff. Young lady discovers she has force powers, fights an attempt to reclaim the power of the Empire, and it crumbles. It's the whole story. It's like not relevant at all. In historical terms, it would be less than a footnote. Really. It would be like, hey, there was a resurgence of the Empire and it fell apart because, a Jedi Order kind of came together and fought it. But the ramifications for the solar system and the universe and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter. And there's literally no meaningful interpersonal drama, right? None of the characters really jive with one another in any serious way. The faux romanticism that existed between Kylo Ren and Rey was so transparently false and so obviously jammed in. I know, buddy. I know. I also hate transparently false romanticism. And I've even heard, I don't want to take credit for this idea, but I don't remember who said it, but someone really pointed out that when that trilogy began, the black stormtrooper character was really put to the forefront and was really treated as if he was going to be like a major protagonist throughout this film. And the guy really pointed out, like, when was the last time you watched a Hollywood movie where there was a male protagonist and a female protagonist that didn't actually create some kind of romantic connection? And the guy basically said, pretty straightforwardly, yeah, like, they did everything they could to friend zone this black character to make sure that Rey ended up not ending up with the guy who, like, gallivanted around the solar system for her, saves her life on several occasions, right? Fights for her, puts his life at risk for her, right? And who does she end up macking out with? The psychopath, the objective psychopath in the story, right? Like, and he was sitting there being like, what's the messaging here? Like, what am I supposed to take away from this? And I was a bit like, yep, that's what happens when you're dishonest about your legacy of racism. When you just sweep it under the rug and try to pretend like it didn't happen. Well, it manifests anyway. It manifests anyway. Like Poe was like when I talk about Disney destroying their own characters, right? This is what I'm talking about. They created this character Poe, who could have been one of the great heroes of cinematic history. That he could have been right up there with Han Solo, without a doubt, right? But instead of giving this character the honest narrative that he deserved, which is as a man fighting with a woman and earning her love, right? Which is a classic storytelling narrative. Instead of that, they pigeonhole him and friend zone him because he's black. For sure. And Disney can't be trusted with these storytelling, with stories like this anymore, right? Their stories suck. They're always bad. I remember I had a whole other point. Oh yeah, and by doing that, right? Like, Rey doesn't really have a personal stake in anything, right? Like, in Invincible, it's a father and a son, and in the original trilogy, it's a father and a son, ultimately, right? And this, like, familial drama tied into the galactic drama. Rey's, like, tied into all of this because the Force tells her. She, like, just has, like, a vision, and she goes on, like, a vision quest, and she's, like, guided by the Force. But she doesn't have, like, a personal stake. She doesn't actually grow as a person. She doesn't actually, like, she doesn't lose ever. She doesn't actually. Every single time she fights, she wins, and every single time she struggles, she overcomes. Easily too. She literally had a lightsaber duel against Luke Skywalker and handily defeated him. Like, Disney can't be trusted with storytelling anymore. Straight up. Stop watching Disney shit, because they don't know how to tell stories anymore. They've forgotten how. The Boys is also a really good one. Oh, you posted it on the Discord, Little Mermaid 1975 anime. Oh, I'm looking forward to it, dude. I'm so looking forward to it. And it's, we're talking about Batman here. Like, I can't bring myself to watch this The Batman, right? Because it looks like all they've done is that they've just taken the same Batman story that they already did with Christian Bale, and we're just like, make it even grittier. Make him look a little crazier. Make Bruce Wayne a little emo-er and a little crazier. But it looks like it's fundamentally the same story, right? The only Batman story I'm interested in is somebody saying to Bruce Wayne, hey, bud, can we talk about your mental illness? Right? Because Bruce Wayne, obviously, like, this is the movie that I would actually go to the theater to watch. The title film would be the bat symbol, right? And the name of the movie would be Bruce Wayne. I'm not interested in seeing Batman anymore. I want to see a film about Bruce Wayne. A man who, when he was a child, witnessed the public murder of his family, and since that moment has lived in a perpetual state of needing to defeat crime itself. And this endless war that he has sent himself down on has forced him to not only sacrifice his own childhood, teenage years, and entire life, he's also dedicated his entire fortune to militarizing himself, to militarizing himself in terms of his own abilities towards combat, but also in his gear, in militarizing himself, rather than pursuing a path to alleviate the crime that he claims to be so virulently fighting. Because at the end of the day, he can't remove the crime from the society at the source, because he always needs someone to fight so that he can take out his vengeance perpetually against those who killed his family and killed his parents. That he is caught in an obsession with constantly trying to get revenge. And this revenge has led him down a deeply psychotic path that is enabled by literally everyone around him only because he is a billionaire. And if they say no, he'll just get rid of them. That's the only movie I'm willing to watch anymore with Batman. I don't care about the Avengers. I don't care, Justice League. I don't care about who they cast. I don't care who the next Batman's going to be. I don't care. Because it's always going to be the same enabling, psychopathic story where we're supposed to be rooting for someone who has a desperate mental illness that needs to desperately be analyzed and observed. That we need to crack open this billionaire's brain and go, why are we allowing this to exist? Why are we permitting this vigilante to pursue his path of vengeance perpetually while he extracts as much wealth out of the system in order to continuously and perpetually generate more crime that he will then continuously and forever fight? Where's that story, motherfuckers? Where's that story? Bat logo, Bruce Wayne, only film I'm going to watch. Not interested in anything else. Not even close. Starring Jordan B. Peterson as Wayne's psychologist. I think Peterson it'd be great to model Scarecrow off of Peterson. I think Peterson and Scarecrow would connect with each other. The Boys series is pretty good. Polemic on superheroes, for sure it is. It's unfortunately the series is coming up from Bezos Media, and it's pro-CIA propaganda. It's not really explicitly pro-CIA propaganda, though. Like, Homelander's pretty overtly evil. Like, he's obviously psychotic, and clearly a fascist, like very clearly a fascist, and I would like this more explored, Ligandis. Like, and what's convincing you? And which isn't to say that I disagree with the idea, because it is Bezos Media and CIA stuff, but like, what's convinced you that there is a twisting of that dagger, right? Like, I can believe, like Top Gun, right? Like, yeah, of course the military is involved in Top Gun. Look how cool they've made the military look, right? They're literally using it as military advertising, right? That's obvious. So what's got you thinking that way with The Boys? Because my feeling on The Boys is that it's actually underneath their radar. That there's so much of that shit coming out that, like, Bezos and the CIA, like, while they're probably aware of it, and they're aware of the angle that they're taking, like, where's the twist of the dagger? I think is what I'm asking. Like, what's the manipulation there? How do you think about stuff? My brain would never go there. I just like the pretty moving pictures, just like the caveman I am. This is a problem I have, actually, Methane, is that I was raised in a storytelling tradition, first of all, with fundamentalist Christianity, which I have come to see as a storytelling tradition. And so I was raised on stories in the first place. And then I went to university and got a degree in theater, which again is following a storytelling tradition. And learning the deep analysis of storytelling, learning all of the behind-the-scenes stuff on how theater and film is made, seeing how the sausage is made, right? And once you see how the sausage is made, you can't unsee it. So it's very difficult, and this is something that I admit is a problem for myself, which is that, like, I can't actually, or I shouldn't say I can't, because I definitely can, but I have to choose to do it, which is I have to choose to sit down and just allow the event to occur. Like, I think, like, I can't go on roller coasters. And it's not because I'm scared of them, it's because I find them to be quite boring. That the entire time I'm on a roller coaster, it's going tick, 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 and everybody around me is like, oh boy, we're going to go, oh man, and I'm going like, yeah, we're going to go up, and then we're going to go down very quickly, right? Because that's the structure of the piece. You can see it. Like, a roller coaster is like that. And then there's like this turning kind of thing, and there's this thing that goes like this, and all that kind of stuff. I distinctly remember one time, we were rushing down a roller coaster, and we were in the dark, and we could see the light down there, and we were rushing, and people were like, whoa! And I was literally like, we're moving very quickly. And I thought to myself, I bet when we come out of that light, it's going to go into a loop. Right away, it's going to go into a loop. And sure enough, we went out the light, and we went into the loop, but it wasn't just a loop, it was also like a twist as a loop. And I remember as we were in the middle of the twisting loop, I thought to myself, that's very clever of them. A point for this roller coaster for sure. And the whole, like, rushing adrenaline of the... But I fundamentally know that I'm safe. Right? That it is just a linear progression of events. That a roller coaster is a story that is being told. That you can deconstruct. And I've deconstructed so many films that now when I watch a film, I deconstruct it as I watch it. And it makes it very difficult for me to enjoy films in a lot of cases. Because, like, most of the stories are not that different, right? Most stories are kind of the same. And it takes a very unique storyteller. Someone like Pendleton Ward is actually quite good. I also quite like Rick and Morty for this, because I never know what's going to happen next, right? It is following, like, Dan Harmon is very good to follow the hero's journey story format, because he's of the belief that is the storytelling format. And he's quite convincing. But, like, but most stories, like, all of the Marvel stories are predictable. Like, you know what's coming. Like, you know what's going to happen next. Like, there's no surprises. Like, there's nothing new that's going to happen. It's just they've changed the name of the MacGuffin, and the characters look a little different, you know. But like, I've never watched a Marvel film and been like, oh, like not even that. Oh, I've never done that with a Marvel film, because you always know what's going to come, because you deconstruct one of these and you've deconstructed all of them. And I admit it's a problem. It's a problem for me. So every so often I have to go into a film and be. I did that with Ghostbusters, the new Ghostbusters. I literally said to myself going into the theater, John, it's just a Ghostbusters film. It's Ghostbusters. What are you going to see? You're going to see they're going to be 4 kooky women coming together, making a band, shoot lasers at ghosts. Set the standard, set the expectation, and then I had a great time. Everybody around me was just like, I don't grumble. I was just like, nah, it was great. They shot the lasers at the ghosts. And it's because I knew it was going to be that experience. I knew that it was going to be like that. And so I had to give myself permission to enjoy the film. You know? It's a real problem. It's a real problem. Also the case with Shang-Chi. Yeah, all the Marvel superheroes have love interests, but the male Asian superhero convenient gets the friend zone. Exactly, dude. Exactly. Right? Like, an Asian man or a black man can't kiss a white woman on screen. It just can't happen. But Disney's not racist, right? They're woke, right? For sure. And I hear that in Marvel's Eternal series, the gay representation is also conveniently put on the Asian male characters, of course. Of course, right? Milo, dude, there's literally no one there. Oh, he just fights the symptom, not the cause. He's supposed to be this uber high IQ, sharp-minded individual. This is just like Light Yagami from Death Note. Dude, Light Yagami is like, the Death Note story is one of the great tragedies. It's one of the great tragic stories. It took me a long time. I really hated the ending of Death Note. I really found the ending of Death Note to be extremely anticlimactic, but so anticlimactic that I had to believe that they were doing it on purpose and making a point of it. You know, that they were very much saying something with that ending, and I don't want to spoil anything or ruin it, because I actually do think that Death Note is one of the great anime. It like absolutely deserves a clean watch. They earn everything. They earn everything in that. And that's why the ending to me was so disappointing. And I kept trying to rewrite it. For the longest time, I kept trying to rewrite the ending, which only made me realize how poignant the ending actually was. Because I kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking about it, and I kept coming back around on it. And I kept coming back around on it. And without ruining anything or spoiling anything, I think it really was because the ending of Death Note is so quiet. It's so quietly done. It doesn't end in an explosion. It doesn't end in a fury. It doesn't end that way. It ends very quietly. And for a film with for a story with such intensity, and a story of such proportions, like the basic plot, and this is not ruining anything, this is like literally the first episode. The basic plot of Death Note is that Light Yagami stumbles upon a book that is dropped onto Earth by a death god. Like literally a god of death drops this book on the plane of existence because he's bored. No other reason. He's simply bored. And Light realizes that any name that he writes in the Death Note, that person will die in the manner that Light dictates in the book. And so the story becomes like this really brilliant journey of Light's ethos, what he does with the Death Note, the cat and mouse between him and the detective character, who he can't whose name he can't discover, and so he can't write the name in the death note, and so there's this constant cat and mousing that occurs. I can't speak more highly of Death Note. It really illustrates clearly the strength of Japanese storytelling. That I've studied Japanese storytelling in the past, and you can see how Death Note is so heavily influenced, and that method of storytelling. Because here in the West, we really want there to be like a climax with like and they lived happily ever after, right? There's always that kind of, and they lived happily ever after, and the whole story is very neatly tied in together, and there's like, it's like a circle that comes around on itself and it concludes itself, right? Whereas in Japanese storytelling, there's this persistent understanding that in fact the story does continue, it just doesn't continue with these people anymore, or if it does continue with these people, their part of the story is no longer there, right? And so Japanese storytelling is far more arcing and long thinking. It doesn't conclude in on itself in those sorts of ways. And yeah, Death Note is absolutely one of the great pieces of art that has ever come out of anime, for sure. And then they did a live-action movie and completely ruined it. They didn't. You can't ruin Death Note, but like, it was a terrible. Do not watch the live-action. Just sidestep that disaster. Has anyone ever seen Dogville and Manderley, 2 films by Lars von Trier? I have not. Did anyone see where Alfred was secretly Joker? Yeah, that was Neil Gaiman that did that. Neil Gaiman did that. And I feel like what Gaiman was trying to really articulate was this enabling, right? Like, that story specifically, and the whole story is that Alfred, in like a monologue, reveals that he has been the Joker the whole time, and the reason for him doing it is because he knows that Bruce Wayne needs a villain to fight, and so Alfred becomes that villain in a way to enable Bruce Wayne's psychosis, right? Like, it's the closest any author has actually gotten to telling the story that should be told of Bruce Wayne. The boys as a group is not revolutionaries, but a kind of counter gang to the gang, yeah. And they're all on a vengeance quest. Like, that's all it is. Like, they don't have any kind of like the boys themselves, they don't actually, like, they're not fighting for America or truth or justice or any of this. They're all just fighting for vengeance. They want revenge, right? One of the great motivations, right? Revenge, vengeance. Haven't seen those, but that Antichrist guy, if I recall, grim stuff. Death Note was great, only the first season. The second season didn't happen. What are you talking about? Yeah, there was a second season. Or, I don't want to get into the specifics, so I don't want to ruin anything. But, like, there definitely was, like, a natural conclusion that they could have taken, and then they chose to move on and do, like, a second iteration. And let's be honest, that second iteration I think was weaker. Like, if I wanted to be like really frank, because I feel like the first part was like a labor of love, and then the author got told, hey, we could do more, and he was probably like, yeah, we could do more, and so it was still good, but it definitely was weaker. Yeah. Dogville and Manderley are super dark. They're really neat. Like, the set design and everything, very different from regular movies. Oh, that's interesting. Are there only like 4 or 5 basic story archetypes? It seems like every story that we tell in America is a Messiah story. Dan Harmon makes the argument, as does several storytellers and critics, the story circle, that there is in fact only one story. And it's the story circle. And I more or less have come to see that this is actually true. That if a story doesn't follow this format, it's probably not a story. right? Which is why sometimes you watch stuff and you think all of the elements were good and everything was, but it wasn't really good, right? I think this way about Disney's Hercules. That Hercules was like a series, like the actors were great, the animation was great, the characters were strong, the music was strong, all of the elements themselves were really good, but it doesn't fit into this format, and so it's not a story. Character, number 1, starts in a comfort zone. 2, they desire something. 3, enter an unfamiliar situation. 4, adapt to the situation. 5, they get what they desired. 6, they pay a heavy price for winning. 7, a return to their familiar situation. And 8, they have overall changed. And this sounds very simple, and it is very simple. But it's shocking how often stories don't follow this format, right? Like, none of the Marvel movies follow this format, right? Like, they very rarely they change overall, right? There's no actual change that occurs. And most of the drive that comes in a lot of those movies isn't coming from a place of their own desire. It's that they're forced into situations outside of their control. But most movies, if you actually sit down, and most stories, if you actually sit down and go through it, they'll follow this format, right? And Dan Harmon, who's a storyteller I respect very much, really insists that his stories, if they don't follow this format structurally, then he won't move forward with them. Because he's of the opinion that they're not a story. Like, if you want to make a commercial, you can go ahead. Q-Force really sanitizes the CIA. Oh yeah. From what I see, the boys sanitizes the CIA by presenting them as working with the underdogs and at the mercy of Vought. Interesting. That is an interesting perspective, actually. Yeah, like, the idea is that... Yeah, of course the CIA would be a counterforce to this dark corporate evil, right? That the CIA isn't working with the corporation. The CIA is working against the corporation, see? The CIA is working in your best interests, see? It's not working for Vought, and it's not working with Vought. Certainly the CIA is not working with Jeff Bezos. Certainly they'd be working against Jeff Bezos, right? Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Setting the idea that intelligence agencies will always choose the right side, will always work with the good guys, and will always fight evil, right? Yeah, I get you here. And they can be effective with that kind of narrative because Homelander is objectively a fascist. Like, he's obviously a psychopath. He's obviously a fascist. Like, you can't create an argument that says otherwise, right? Like, it's obviously the case. And so for the CIA to be fighting against him means that they are fighting the fascists, right? When we all know that the CIA is the fascists. Like, they're Goebbels, without a doubt. What's your take on One Piece? How good are you able to deconstruct, and how often are you able to predict the plot? Also, how far are you in? Are you now? I've made it to the end of what's her name? The princess. I've made it to the end of the princess arc where she gets her kingdom back. So far, I mean, in terms of predicting the story, like, the unpredictability of One Piece is what are they going to encounter next, right? That once those pieces are all set, the story does actually become quite predictable, but it's the setting of the stage that is unpredictable and interesting in One Piece. That, like, every story is introduce a new character, right? That character has a personal trouble. the characters go off to pursue a resolution to this, facing the villains that they face along the way. And the villains are these like numbered fellows usually, right? Like there's 1 and 2 and all these guys, right? And they fight them, and they're interesting interactions, right? And there's surprises in regards to like what abilities these guys have. There's always One Piece is really good at revealing things. It doesn't hit you with everything. It slowly trickles out the surprises and the revelations, which you know are coming constantly. You constantly know that there's always going to be something new being revealed to you on this very predictable arc. And the arc is predictable, right? That all of the and at some point all of the characters get split up. The main character, the rubber guy, whose name is eluding me right now for no reason, he always ends up by himself off alone somewhere. And because he's the strongest of them, you know that what's going to happen is that, like, when you're watching the crisis that is occurring with the main villain, you always know, you're always saying, Luffy, that's his name, you're always saying to yourself, you just wait until Luffy shows up. You just wait until Luffy shows up. Luffy's going to show you what's what. You just wait. You're constantly saying that. So it's setting an expectation. You're constantly in that state of expectation, which is good. Like, none of this is bad. Like, this is all really good storytelling. Like, One Piece is very well done. I really get why people love this story. And then eventually Luffy does show up, because he eventually, and it's usually something really silly, like, I'm lost, right? Luffy is in his heart a very silly kind of a character who you're watching grow up and sort of find his way, but at his heart he's very silly. He's constantly getting lost. He constantly can't figure shit out. Sometimes though it is like, I'm not getting involved because you're not telling me to get involved. This is your issue, and until you tell me to deal with it, I'm not going to. And so that gives him a set of honor. Like, he's very principled in that way. But ultimately, right, every arc ends with Luffy finally casting off all of the snares and traps and getting lost and all this kind of stuff. And finally he gets the fight and beats them up. Right? And it's cool and it's awesome. And because of the way anime works, and especially One Piece, where it's just like this steady, like, a single arc can take you like 16 episodes, right? And so this whole journey is happening, and you know what's going to happen. Like, you know what's going to happen. It's like when the coyote falls off the cliff. Like, you know, you're watching it happen, and you know what's going to happen, right? You know what's going to happen. You know it's going to go. And you laugh every time. You love it every single time. I've never seen anybody watch those Roadrunner cartoons and be like, "Oh, he just fell off the cliff again. Predictable. No, we expect it. We want it. They deliver. We love it." And it's the same thing with One Piece. That they do a really good job of, like, holding it back, and just when you think Luffy's going to get in there and do it, they hold him back, and they hold him back. Oh, here's another snare, and they hold him back. They're holding him back, and then finally it's just like, gum, and he fucks them up every time. And you're here for it. Like, you're here for it. You love it every time. The only critique I have for One Piece is the critique of One Piece, which is, it's quite long, and there's quite a lot of it. But the pattern is always the same, right? They go to a place, there's a crisis usually, but one of the characters is having a crisis, right? Is the center of the crisis. They pursue it, they get separated. Individuals encounter the villain of the piece, who is very strong and filled with pride and gloats a lot. He's pursuing his own objectives. Eventually, Luffy catches up. They fight. Luffy wins. Crisis resolved. Everybody cheers. And then they start the next arc, where they go somewhere and they start to set the table again. And sometimes the table is there's a prehistoric island with giants on it. And sometimes the table is a princess has been thrown out of her kingdom and is trying to reclaim it against a coup. Right? So they've captured that kind of fantasy storytelling in a very circular kind of a way, but that circle is constantly moving forward because the overarching plot of the entire piece is Luffy wanting to become king of the pirates. So structurally very, very strong. And I got to admit, I've stopped watching One Piece, but now after talking about it, I got to go back. Because there's still more. There's still more to watch. And every character grows, which is fascinating to watch, right? Every character grows. They do a really good job of constantly not just leveling up the characters in terms of their power, but also in terms of their maturity. And it looks like the show is growing up with them. Like Nami starts as a girl, but she becomes a woman, right? Like, I suspect that the same thing will happen with Luffy, that Luffy is essentially just a young man, but he will become a man and become quite serious at one point. And, yeah, One Piece. It's a good show, man. It is a good show. Yeah, this is definitely, the first half is brilliant. The second half was absolute garbage. Well, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it's pretty obvious that they were this happened with, I don't know if you guys know the song, not the Song of Ice and Fire, The Wheel of Time with Robert Jordan. It's pretty clear that they said to Robert Jordan at the end of the first book, hey, we want to make this a trilogy, and that he ripped out the last page and just left some loose threads so that he could make a trilogy, right? I think the same thing happened with Death Note. That he got to the end of the story and they said, hey, we want more. And he was like, okay, ripped out the page, kept the story going, right? For those who've never seen Death Note, if you actually do watch Death Note, and I advise that you do, it's really good. Even the second half I thought was good. It's really clear that that's what they've done. I actually love Pula Madoka Magica anime. Starts light, gets start quick. Haven't heard of that one. Oh, wow, we found connections in the chat over Madoka. Fantastic. Teen girls as green energy. So good. I'm sold. Kyubey is also frustrating and great. Yeah, the magical girl genre is fun, keeps developing. I just finished a magical girl anime where they become super buff guys who happen to be cross-dressing because it doesn't make sense to have teen girls fight John. There's a little film or something I saw last week, the hero's journey story format. Made sense. Fantastic. Shudo. Season 3 blew that idea up. I can't say anything, but the CIA is the CIA in that season. Oh, interesting. I think if there is a meta of the boys, it's a victory lap story. It is a victory lap story of capital. We have won so totally that we can tell you the truth, and you won't do anything about it. Wow. Content. Bringing down the thunder. Honestly, the next anime I would recommend you watch is Fairy Tail. I've heard good things about Fairy Tail. Alright guys, I gotta go fix my stupid glasses. This is dumb. Living like this is silly. I'm gonna go fix it. Thanks so much for sticking with me on this one, guys. This is a weird stream. But I basically just talked about Disney and cartoons and shit. So, it's good to know that you guys are going to come with me during my time of stress, during my periods of etc. and so on. Like, share, subscribe, right? If you've got $1 jangling around that pocket, please consider donating, right? Even $1 helps, guys. Thank you so much. And a big thank you to those who do, right? I really do appreciate it. It really does help me. I'm going to level with you guys, man. I am essentially making rent right now with all my work, including my capitalist work. So even $1 would be really helpful. All right, guys. Always remember, you're a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. The billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes that you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. revolt, repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.